and the relationship with the fans and all that. I don't know if I would put it in the season-saving category. I still think Oklahoma State has some work to do to where fans will go into the off season or the bowl season, then into the off season thinking, okay, this wasn't great, but we kind of knew it was going to be a reset year, and the Cowboys did fine. I think the biggest impact of this win, and this goes back to the comments from early in the summer with Athletic Director Mike Holder. This one's for you, Coach Holder. This one's for recruiting, because I think Mike Gundy understood the value of it. I think his staff understood the value of it. You go in and you get a lot of your top players from Texas, and it gets tough when Texas is really good. Not just do you have to battle Texas, but Texas will do really well, and everybody else is coming into that state, and it backs everybody up a little bit. When you can go into the state of Texas and say, we beat Texas 7 of the last 9 years, beat them in our place this year, beat them in their place 4 years in a row, you can really, you not only are talking the talk, you have walked the walk in the Longhorn State. So I think it's a huge win for recruiting. And just on the surface Saturday night, there were close to 50, 60 kids here, and almost half of those kids were either kids who have been offered already or committed already. Brendan Costello, the quarterback from California, that's a quarterback in the 19 class. One of the quarterbacks they'd like to see in the 20 class out of Arkansas was here. You had an official visitor in Keandrick Glass, a running back out of Katy, Texas. It's really a sensational recruit that's going to visit Alabama and Ohio State, and left here saying, man, what a great atmosphere. People who don't know, Oklahoma State's got a great football atmosphere. So just on the surface Saturday night, you impressed a lot of kids and their parents.
Can you kind of talk about the atmosphere that was just in the stadium on Saturday night, because it stayed full for the majority of the game?
Yeah, and I don't want to get negative. I mean, this shows. I mean, we were negative last week and the week before that, but I will say this: the only area after halftime that emptied out somewhat, and it wasn't bad. I've seen it happen much worse after a homecoming halftime announcement, but there were probably a good 7, 8, 9 rows in the upper part of the student section that just became vacant.
Yeah,
that
frustrating.
Yeah,
frustrating.
Really?
Like you said,
Oklahoma State was leading at halftime. Oklahoma State's leading the 6th-ranked team, and I don't care if you're not even a football fan. That's where everybody was. Don't you want to be where the people are? Hey, where the happening place is? And I mean, that blew my mind. But the atmosphere overall, Mike Gundy said it afterwards. He said it to the media. He said it to us in the post-game radio on the Cowboy Network. He goes, this is as good as it's been. And if we can get this all the time, people who don't think the players feed off of it, you're kidding yourself. I mean, those kids are just like any other human being. When there's a lot of people showing interest and they're excited about what you're doing, I mean, when people come up to you guys and say, hey, man, I watched your show. It's really great, man. I enjoy it. Man, you guys are the highlight of my day. Well, how does that make you feel?
Pretty good when it happens.
Yeah. when people are sitting in the stands, that's what those players, they know, hey, everybody's enjoying us. They're watching us play. This is cool. So, yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah, certainly Logan and I were not there, but, I mean, you felt the atmosphere all week in Stillwater, and to see it on TV, I mean, it was a great performance. We'll skip, there's a couple of interesting games, the Big 12, obviously Texas Tech and Kansas State, and Gary Patterson's had a migraine for a month now, losing to Kansas. Is there anything with those two games? The other two were blowouts. Anything that surprised you with those two games?
The Texas Tech-Iowa State win, I thought it was a terrific game. It was fun to watch. I got to see quite a bit of that before we got really kicking and getting ready for the pregame and the Oklahoma State game. Oklahoma romped. The Kansas game, because if you look at the stats on that, if no one showed you the score, they just showed you the stats, you're going to say, oh, okay, TCU probably won by a couple of touchdowns. But no, they didn't. I mean, there were some freaky things that happened in it. Right now, TCU is just full of bad mojo. Right now, nothing's going right for them. It's kind of like Gary Patterson walked under a ladder, is walking alongside a black cat. Gary, don't go out on Halloween. Don't trust anything right now. I mean, because it's bad. Like I said, it's bad mojo for TCU, and they're coming up on the Battle of the Purple, and they're in real good mojo going on in Kansas State either. They're talking about the old man quitting, or not quitting, but being encouraged to go to the retirement home, and that's crazy too. So that's going to be a wild game.
Yeah, and interesting. Obviously, the most interesting game for us is Oklahoma State this week, but West Virginia at Texas is a very interesting game. And we'll get your thoughts on that if we have time to end the show. But what happened at the end of Saturday night's game? Gundy's pumping up the crowd. I thought the way he handled it at the handshake was great. I didn't think Herman handled it well at first, but it ended right there for the coaches. But Brecken Hager, I think that what he did was unacceptable, but you can't punish him if you're Tom Herman, because Tom Herman was out there trying to get to Mike Gundy. So I know they ended it, but what are your thoughts on Brecken Hager and what Tom Herman did Saturday night?
Well, let's be totally upfront and honest here. There was another guy involved in this. That would be Oklahoma State wide receiver Tyron Johnson. In fact, one of the first things they do in the locker room, I love to give people a snippet of what goes on. One of the first things, once everybody's in the locker room, and after a win like that, it takes longer, because guys are out there celebrating with the crowd, and Gundy, and in this case, I think it was Gundy, Taylor Cornelius, maybe Tylan Wallace, were all held up to interview with ABC, with the ESPN group. And so once everybody got in the locker room, they do the Lord's Prayer. Well, we're waiting for everybody to get in, and I just happened to notice I was standing next to Tyron. And I go, Tyron, what'd you say? He goes, Mr. Allen, I trash talked him good. Told him I wanted a piece of him. And so Tyron got under Brecken Hager's skin. But to be fair here as well to Tyron, it is not very hard to get under Brecken Hager's skin. I think he's a couple of bricks shy of a load. I'm just telling you. I've interviewed him before, and it's like he's from outer space. So, and you know what? I mean, here's a guy that says his freshman year. Y'all ever seen his freshman picture at Texas?
Yes.
Yeah, it's short hair. I mean, and he said, I'm not cutting my hair until Texas wins the Big 12. Well, that's 4 years. Yeah. That's 4 years of hair. And guess what, Brecken? I don't think you're going to get to cut it. So you're going to have to wait until some other group that doesn't have you on the team wins. If you're going to keep it and keep the promise, I would just assume he'd go cut it now. Cut your losses, okay? But you know what? When you look at the coach's response, I don't have a problem with either one. Mike Gundy ran out there because he doesn't have many offensive linemen.
Yeah.
And the big guys are the ones that are most apt to throw a punch. And you throw a punch, it's not just you're going to the house for the last few seconds. You're going to miss the trip to Waco. He can't afford to lose anybody. Can't afford to lose any of his running backs or anybody. So he was out there, and he told the officials, as soon as he got out there, he looked at officials and said, I'm just trying to keep a fight from happening. And so he was trying to get his guys back. If you looked over on the OSU sideline, all the strength coaches and some of the position coaches, and even a radio guy, were out there with their arms like this. And I had a hold of Rodarius Williams. He wanted out there. You leave, you guys know the rule. You leave the bench, you're ejected, and you're gone next week. Yeah. So OSU was in protection mode. Herman thought Gundy was out there after Hager. I don't care. I mean, I understand. He came out to defend his player. And then at the handshake, Gundy made sure, I think Gundy made sure, one, Herman knew what he was doing, and two, how both coaches should handle it with the media. Because Gundy started giving him media advice. Just tell everybody we were trying, he was trying to help Herman out. So in the end, it was okay. It looked uglier than it probably was. And Tyron Johnson, you're better than Conrad Dobler, and you guys won't even know who I'm talking about there, but I can tell you that story later.
Well, we're going to take a quick break. Breckenhager, fun one-on-one fact, 0-4 against the Oklahoma State Cowboys, and we'll never beat them because he is not coming back.
No.
But we'll be right back on one-on-one, OSU Student Radio, KCUI, Sunlink, Channel 112.
One-on-One is brought to you by Tinker Federal Credit Union. Visit facebook.com/TinkerFCU. While you're there for your family, we're there for you. Tinker Federal Credit Union. And OSU Communications. Not sure where to park? OSU Communications has got you covered with parking tips and bus schedule information. We'll be right back.
Determining your future by selecting a major can be difficult.
It's okay to be undecided.
Connect with the College of Arts and Sciences, where your options are endless.
Where you can uncover your passions and achieve your goals.
Express your creativity by exploring a career in the visual and performing arts.
Investigate new discoveries to make the world a better place with a career in science.
Advance knowledge, communicate progress, and contribute to a healthier planet with a career rooted in the social sciences.
Discover your career by looking at the world from different perspectives through the humanities.
Realize a better tomorrow through problem solving and mining data that can change lives.
CAS prepares you to succeed through internships, study abroad, student-guided research projects, and service activities.
With 109 majors, 52 minors, and 24 departments, the only thing missing is you. College of Arts and Sciences.
Connect.
Achieve. Succeed.
When you have a team of physicians and nurses that really truly care about their patients, that translates into patient care.
It's a small practice, it's a small town. Everybody really takes that time to put the patient first.
Everybody cares what's happening to me and that I'm making progress and I'm gaining my freedom back and my mobility back. This patient is saying thank you.
This spring, I invite you to shop in downtown Stillwater. Downtown Stillwater is home to locally owned shops, boutiques, eateries, and dependable professionals that you can trust. Find the perfect gift for your graduate, have a delicious meal with mom, or just stop in to enjoy great spring savings. By creating a demand for local goods and services, you can ensure a place for the local businesses that help give our community character and keep it unique. On behalf of Downtown Stillwater, thank you for shopping local.
All right, you're
Oh,
I am.
oh, there's my prediction.
Yeah.
It's going to look really bad after I say this. Listen, we're in sports media, but at the end of the day, I am a homer, but that's not where this prediction comes from. What was it, 3-4 years ago, TCU came in here highly ranked.
Yeah.
OSU dominated them. Baylor came in here with RG3.
ABC prime
yeah.
time.
OSU wiped the floor with them.
Clint Shelf.
This team is down and out. Gundy said put the big boy pants on. I had a little rant last week. Fans are mad, but as Robert said, fans can get as angry as they want, but they don't spend 12 hours
Right.
a day
Prepping.
on the practice field, watching film, going to school, working hard for this. It does mean something for this team. Texas, 34-29 against Maryland. Maryland's not very good. 28-21 Tulsa. Tulsa is awful. USC's bad. That's their one good win. TCU, obviously Cavante Turpin, we didn't get into that, dismissed after being arrested this week, so it's tough times in Fort Worth. K-State, not
Close game.
the team that shall not be mentioned, 19-14. OU, they almost gave it up in the fourth quarter, 48-45. Baylor, 23-17. Baylor's good, but not great. You're looking at this list right here and going, well, Texas hasn't dominated anyone. USC, a quarterback that is in middle school, basically. Well, welcome back to One-on-One on OSU Student Radio, KCUI, Sunlink, Channel 112, joined by Logan Mosier and OSU insider Robert Allen. I'm Reed Spencer. Sometimes it pays to be a homer, Robert. Sometimes it's awesome to be right, and I am wrong so often that we have to make a bump in when I'm right. But I predicted the Cowboys would win, and I'm going to enjoy it as the Cowboys get a 38-35 win over the number 6 Longhorns.
People have gotten network positions with predictions like that, so... I mean, you need to use it all for all it's worth. Here's what I'm stuck with. Last week was the first time I picked against Oklahoma State. And I picked Texas to win by a touchdown. You know, because I'm just like, you know, I mean, Oklahoma State they were struggling.
Yeah.
So now I'm in the predicament of a lot of people are like, pick against him again. You know, but I'm not into that.
Yeah.
You know.
The no superstition.
I'm not. No.
I
And
am.
to be fair, Robert, you and
I think Baylor's going to win though.
You and I both picked Texas to win, but we said, Reed, we hope you're right.
Oh yeah.
We want you to be right.
I mean, Robert, I am in that superstitious business because I pick against my Kansas City Chiefs every week.
You do?
Every week, and he picks for them, and it works.
You know what? I would. If I were you, I would pick them this week. I think you've got a great shot against a team that fired their coach. And besides, won't it be fun to see Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs beat Baker Mayfield and the Browns?
Oh, I hope so. I'm picking against him on our Friday show, though.
He's super superstitious. I picked against him.
I probably will pick Oklahoma State this week, okay?
Well, an offensive performance, at least in the first half, that was unbelievable. Taylor Cornelius had probably the most important 16 yards for this entire team with that 10-yard touchdown run at the end and those 6 yards to get that first down. But you look at the offensive totals, I mean, Chuba Hubbard was in there. I think, he had just as good a game as Justice Hill, less runs but similar yards. What did this offense do? And I hope you really say the offensive line because they were amazing Saturday night.
Yeah, I think the offensive line was improved and they were better. The other thing that I thought they did was they got away from the load and the G blocking and pulling people, and they just ran a lot of inside outside zone. They ran some stretch. When you notice, each lineman will step out with a bucket step and go to their right or go to their left, and they did a really nice job with that. The other thing is by formation, they put Chuba and Justice Hill in the same two-man backfield together. Well, when you're a linebacker for Texas and you look at that backfield and you see 5 on one side and you see 30 on the other, you're like, oh, man. I mean, either direction, you're in trouble because both those guys have quicks. Both of them are good running backs. So I think what Oklahoma State did was they said, hey, look, let's put our guys, literally, this is what you tell coaches, put your players in the best position for success. Well, they put a formation out there that was going to be very, very good against Texas and cause the defense a lot of consternation. And then they also put the offensive linemen in the plays that they were going to block best. Even some of the, and they skinnied the playbook up, guys. That was one of Mike Gundy's mandates, both sides of the ball. Let's slim this up so our guys aren't thinking so much. Let's go with fewer plays and we'll get better results. But they still put some new material in. The position, under center for Cornelius. The I formation, which was definitely an ode to the throwback uniforms. That's a formation that Barry Sanders lived in back in the day in the I formation. And they went play action on 4th and 1 and threw it on a deep drag to Jelani Woods. Again, they came up with some creative stuff that was easy to execute, and the offense did a nice job with it. Like you said, the offensive line played much better. I think they were much more confident. And I tell you the guy I'm happiest for, I mean, if you think about it on social media, and Gundy went into his Twitter rant and all that, all that was about one guy. I mean, the whole team wasn't getting beat up on Twitter.
Yeah.
One guy's been beat up a bunch on social media, and that's Taylor Cornelius. And I was happy. Not only did he get Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week, but by Sunday morning he had a helmet sticker from ESPN on college football final. The Manning people made him one of their Players of the Week. And then how about this? Because I'm pretty sure I beat up Zach Seiner a little bit on this show last week.
Yeah.
The punting had got to get better. He's a special teams player of the week in the Big 12, and his punt was awesome.
Yeah.
That was an awesome play in the game. So, a lot of good stuff.
So you talk about, inserting Chuba Hubbard in there. Tylan Wallace, had been inserted in there. When they threw to the 4th and 1 to Jelani Woods and then the 4th and 1 to Tylan Wallace, I still don't necessarily like the play call because when that ball goes in the air, it takes your breath away. But you get 2 touchdowns on there. That one to Tylan, he went up and got that. That was his ball.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with the one to Jelani. I mean, even if they covered Jelani, which they didn't, it's going to be a one-on-one deal.
Yeah.
Probably with a linebacker that's probably about 6'1" or 2. Jelani's 6'7". I like the odds there. The one you talked about with Tylen, that he basically, Chris Boyd mistimed his jump, and Tylen timed it perfectly. Now, do I know for sure this played a role in it? I don't. But that was in the second quarter, and remember, in the first quarter, Tom Herman, and I give Tom Herman credit because I would have bought these kids in, but he was sitting his starting corners. They had been not just late, they had missed most of a team meeting. And so he said, you're suspended the first quarter. Well, after OSU scored that first touchdown, I'm pulling those kids over. I'm going to run you guys till you drop next week, but you're playing right now. You're going in right now. I mean, I would have done that. I mean, I'm weak. I'm weak. Tom Herman was strong, and he held those guys out. All right, OSU, I think, was up, I want to say 14-0 or 17, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, in the second quarter, here comes Davis and here comes Boyd, the two starting corners. Okay, they're still not at full speed because they're coming into a game cold that everybody else has been playing in.
Yeah.
I mean, I promise you, it takes you a while to get up to speed with everybody else. And I'm not saying that's why Chris Boyd mistimed the jump, but I'm saying it was probably a good reason. I mean, if he had defended a couple of other plays prior to that and seen the throws, he's probably got a better chance of timing his jump right. But, so there you go. I mean, I know that makes it sound like I'm not giving Tylen and Oklahoma State enough credit. No, give them credit. Tylen was awesome. 10 catches, 222 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I mean, that's awesome. And the good thing is all the other receivers have got to be happy because Baylor's going to cover the you-know-what out of Tylen Wallace. And Dylan Stoner, Landon Wolf, Tyron Johnson, all those other guys are going to have a chance to make a lot of plays because Baylor's going to have all their eyes on number 2. But at the end of the day, I guarantee the corners being held out and coming in the second quarter played a role. That's a great play there to open up the scoring, that route cut in front of the safety. It was a beautiful play.
This might be a little bit of an overreaction, but is Tylen Wallace a Biletnikoff candidate?
I mean, he could be. I mean, if he keeps this up, obviously, his numbers are awesome. I mean, I want to say he's in the top 6 in the country in both receptions and yardage. With the attention he's going to get, because, besides Baylor, you've got OU and West Virginia the next, second, game from now, and then West Virginia after that. Those two teams are competing for the college football playoff. They don't want to get burned by Tylen Wallace. So he's going to get a lot of attention. If he keeps this up, he'll be a candidate. I don't know how it'll play out, though, because, the last 2 have gone to a guy that wore the same uniform that's up in Pittsburgh. But, I mean, if he goes out and proves it, you can't deny him. I would say this, probably got a good chance to be a finalist.
Well, certainly an impressive season for Tylen Wallace and a great game Saturday night. We're going to get into the defense and everything and special teams and the penalties when we come back in the next segment. You've been watching One-on-One on OSU Student Radio, KXUI, Suddenlink, Channel 112.
One is brought to you by Oklahoma Christian University. Get your master's degree in accounting, business administration, theology, engineering, computer science, or cybersecurity from Oklahoma Christian University. Apply at oc.edu/grad. Oklahoma University is committed to offering the best graduate school experience we possibly can. Come learn and grow with us. And The Table. Stop by The Table on Thursdays at 8 p.m. to join their Bible study. Shoot Rachel an email at rachel@thetableosu.com for more information. We'll be right back.
mind, I was never going to walk right again. Before we were through, we had walked 23 steps. And that was my first steps of freedom. This patient is saying thank you.
Radio KTY Sunlink Channel 112. We'll just go ahead and start right there, Robert.
Is this the holding?
Yeah.
It seems to me that every offensive lineman is in the end zone, but how could that be? Because it wasn't a safety. So, Robert, I know you go to these clinics. You are the one-on-ones officiating expert, whether you like it or not. We're giving you that title.
Okay.
How do you mess that up?
I don't know how you mess it up. And they messed it up royally.
Didn't they get the wrong number?
Yeah, they got the wrong number. They had the tackle, and the tackle wasn't holding. It was the guard. All 5 linemen were in the end zone. When you commit an infraction in the end zone, it's a safety. But all that said, and here's the deal. Once it had been ruled incorrect, you couldn't change it because holding is not a reviewable situation. Neither the infraction nor the location of the infraction is reviewable. Hang on, you're shaking your head, Bubba. But I'll tell you what, you're getting a lot of glory here for picking Oklahoma State to beat Texas last week. And in the end, the official screw-up may have helped your prediction come true. Because here's your choice. You get a safety, and now, which is nice, you get those 2 points. But Texas is going to move up to the 20 and have a free kick, which probably is going to give you the ball at your own 30, 35-yard line. Okay? Instead, they marked that much off for a penalty, and then you know Oklahoma State's defense stopped Texas and forced a punt on the back line, which Oklahoma State took possession at the Texas 35. Okay? After the free kick, you were going to be another 20, 30 yards away from the goal line, or from the goal. Maybe you drive and get a field goal. Well, now that becomes a 5-point transition or a 5-point situation. Maybe you don't get anything. All you get is the 2 points for the safety if you don't drive and score. Or you could have gotten a touchdown, and with the safety, that's 9 points, and that's a bonanza. But what you did get with the field position was 7. The second best scenario was to get 7 points out of that whole situation.
Well, Robert, it's no fun when you explain it like that. We just want.
I know,
we just want to be mad at the refs.
The officials, yeah, you know. And I'll say this, and I mean, I know most of the officials in the Big 12, and I know Scott Campbell, the referee, and you know the umpire in that game as well. It's not the best crew in the Big 12. And if you had been in the Cowboy Network radio booth when I first walked in it was about 3 o'clock. I walked into the booth at 3, and the first place I went was I knew on the front of the booth on the desk there would be the flip cards. I grabbed a flip card to see who the officials were, and I saw Scott Campbell's name, and I like Scott again. But when I saw it, I go, oh no. and Britt Lockhart, who's our producer engineer, was the only other one in the booth, and he goes, what's wrong? Yeah, he's an engineer. Yeah. So, I mean, somebody says, oh, no, he's conditioned. What's wrong? You know. And I said, nothing, Britt, nothing. He goes, no, what's wrong? And I said, the officiating crew. This crew shouldn't have this game. This crew should be in Lawrence for TCU and Kansas. And so, yeah, I was a little worried. Then I saw Bob Bowlesby on the sidelines before the game, Big 12 commissioner. I mean, you don't like seeing that because of all the teams in this league, which one represented right now, or as of Saturday, represented the biggest investment for the Big 12?
Texas.
Texas. You know, the college football playoff poll came out this week. OU was 7th. Texas had dropped to 17th. West Virginia was 13th. Iowa State was 24th. Wow, and they're 4-3. But, you know, they earned that. If Texas had beaten Oklahoma State, Texas is probably no worse than 6th.
Yeah.
Maybe 5th. I mean, they'd had to balance them with Michigan. The losses are a little different. Notre Dame for Michigan and Maryland for Texas. But Texas losing backed everybody up. Now, if you're Oklahoma, you're okay with it. Because all you need is Oklahoma State to beat Baylor this week. And you need West Virginia to keep winning. And Oklahoma can finish the season with some quality wins against Oklahoma State and West Virginia. That's what they're looking at. But their Texas loss now looks worse. And if Texas loses again, it's going to look even worse. But the funny thing is, this goes back to the politics of the college football playoff. If you're Oklahoma, Texas is a bad investment now. So now you don't care. You need West Virginia badly to beat Texas. And that game's this week in Austin. If Texas wins that, now West Virginia's got another, you know, if Oklahoma State were to lose to Baylor, now OU's schedule at the end is unraveling. Their possibility for credit points is dropping like a rock. So do I think the Big 12 was trying to maneuver a win for Texas on Saturday? I don't. I don't want to believe that. But do I think Texas was going to, and did, get almost every conceivable break? If it was close, did it go Texas' way? I think it does. And I think that's going to happen in every league across America as long as you've got the college football playoff. Because, guys, that's a lot of money they pass out for the teams that go to the college football playoff.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
That's a big point in where Oklahoma State improved, especially, I mean, the 4 penalties for 52 yards to Texas, 11 for 86, and you talked about the missed calls. On that last drive, Calvin Bundage was getting wrestled to the ground, and it just wasn't getting called, and it really was all game. A.J. Green somehow got a pass interference by falling behind the guy. I don't understand a lot of the calls, and that's because I don't know the rule book. I can't understand the arguments they make. But common sense football, you look at it and you go, he's trailing a guy and he falls down, and the other guy doesn't fall down. How is this possible?
No, I know. And did you guys watch Andrew Beck, the Texas tight end? I mean, you can't do what he was doing. He was going downfield running routes and knocking people down, blocking defensive backs that were trying to pick up receivers, and he's running. I mean, that's not a pick play. That's sending a bulldozer down there to knock the DB. I mean, but you know what? When you're, I don't want to say when you're Texas, when you're a team in that position that is carrying and waving the banner for the conference, you're going to get breaks. Texas lost their breaks, and now it'll be funny. See what happens this week, because this week in Austin, the team the Big 12 really wants to see win is West Virginia. I mean, I'm anxious to see what the stats look like following that game.
Yeah, it could be very interesting. But the defensive line to the linebackers to the secondary, I know they simplified it down, but let's start with that secondary. Malcolm Rodriguez, and we said it every week.
He's healthy.
He's healthy, and when he's healthy, those first few weeks, he just flies. He just shows up everywhere. I mean, he's amazing, and he's young, but especially A.J. Green, not that pass interference call, but how well did they play and step up to kind of frustrate Sam Ehlinger?
They played really well, and they had the confidence of knowing they were getting a little more help than they'd had. You didn't see nearly as much press man. They weren't up in the receiver's face. They were smart about dealing with Colin Johnson and Duvernay and little Jordan Humphrey. I was worried a little bit about A.J. Green because on that first interference call that was called pass interference, I thought it was OPI, if anything, offensive pass interference. But the feet got tangled. They called it on A.J., and my worry was sometimes corners, and AJ in particular, gets called for interference, and all of a sudden you go into a shell because you don't want to get flagged again. Afterwards, I asked him about it, and he said, you know what? I know now whether I interfere or not. And if I get called, but I didn't really interfere, I'm not going to pay attention to it. So he didn't. And that was great because he kept playing aggressive, did a nice job, and the corners were outstanding. I also talked to Jim Knowles afterwards, and he said, we only got one sack. That hurts his feelings. I mean, this is a guy that loves to see the quarterback on his back, and that his defense is predicated on doing that a lot and attacking the backfield. But he backed off of it because, okay, we'll back off. We'll give our guys in the secondary a little more help with the safeties, and that's what we need to do to win the game. So give Jim Knowles a little credit. He sacrificed what he loves to do, what he likes to see his defense do, to help the team effort a little bit, and it certainly worked. This week, he gets an offense in Baylor that loves to have their quarterback sacked. I mean, they've given up 26 sacks this season, so it should be it's cherry-picking time for Jim Knowles and his guys this week. But you love the fact they sacrificed last week, and you love what they did. The other thing, too, and you mentioned about Calvin Bundage being tackled. Calvin had 2 tackles. He averages about 8 to 10 a game. Well, I guarantee you give Malcolm credit. Malcolm made up on some of, especially when it was up in run support, Malcolm did a good job of making up for the fact that Calvin was being mugged. So, and somebody needed to.
Well, he was disruptive, and it seems like with that bye week, he got a lot healthier as well. So
talking about Bundage?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, and I think he is healthy, and I think he'll make a lot of plays, provided he doesn't get mugged again.
That last drive was something else to watch.
Texas on that last drive? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned how Gundy kind of made the playbook simpler on offense. Did Jim Knowles kind of do that on defense? Make it a lot simpler?
I mean, by you know, they didn't do nearly as much in the blitz area and the stunt area, and then they backed the corners off, let them play more comfortable, and then they played a lot more zone coverage with the safeties involved in pass coverage, having a safety over the top so that corner wasn't feeling like, oh, God, if this guy gets 2 steps on me, it's over. Yeah, did a nice job. And we don't got to mention Cole Walterscheid.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, those are big because not only are they fun to watch, but that really will intimidate a quarterback. When a quarterback, it's like in basketball, when a in-your-face block shot, does that make the shooter adjust his shot? You darn right it does. So now it was in 11's head. Man, I got to look for 82 to make sure I don't get my pass knocked down. That's another effective way of defending.
So Jim Knowles and the defense, they did their part. I mean, they allowed, the 35 points, but they did enough to win. And we'd been talking about, the 12 points at Kansas State. Well, usually Oklahoma State scores enough to win those games, so the defense doesn't always matter. But we have to take a quick break here. But the special teams, it's got to get better down at Baylor because those points, those missed field goals could have come back to bite the Cowboys.
Yeah, and I know. I mean, if you lose that game, Amendola is going to be one of the GOATs, no doubt about it. Field goal kickers, bless their hearts, sometimes they're going to have a bad game. And Amendola it's kind of become norm for him to have a bad game or two. He's had 2 in a row with Texas. I forgot about the 2 he missed in Austin last year. And he also missed 2 at Tech. So will he have another game this year where he misses 2? He might. Hopefully not one that affects the outcome. But for the most part, this guy's been pretty reliable, so I'm not going to get too stressed out. And like I said, give Zach Seiner credit because he had been average or below, and that play was one of the big plays in the game. His punt down to the goal line, and credit the Texas return man for making it. I mean, geez, are you kidding me? Let that go. Give it a chance to get in the end zone, but that was beautiful.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back to break down the Baylor Bears this Saturday. You're watching One-on-One on OSU Student Radio KXUI Sunlink Channel 112.
One-on-One is brought to you by Oklahoma Air National Guard. Contact Oklahoma Air National Guard at 800-GO-TO-ANG or visit their website at goang.com/OK for more information about how to get 100% college tuition. And Unitarian Universalist Church. If you're looking for a church home, visit Unitarian Universalist Church of Stillwater, located at 320 South Stallard Street. They offer an alternative spiritual path and welcome all races, religions, and beliefs. They are also LGBTQ friendly. Services every Sunday at 10:30. We'll be right back.
Stillwater Medical Center now offers a convenient way to view your health information online. It's secure, easy, and free. Our hospital and clinic patient portals allow you to view results and reports, medications and allergies, track visit histories, view upcoming appointment information, and see your statements. To enroll, go to stillwatermedical.com and click on the patient portal link near the top right of the page. If you have questions, please feel free to call 405-533-6010.
Welcome back to One on One on OSU Student Radio KCY Sunlink Channel 112. I'm Reed Spencer, joined by my co-host Logan Mosier, and every Wednesday OSU insider Robert Allen. As you're seeing, Taylor Cornelius with his touchdown run at homecoming last year against the Baylor Bears. Hopefully we'll see that again this weekend, Robert. The Baylor Bears are 4-4, 2-3.
Can't help but smile. Yeah. Because I've been on the Taylor bandwagon the whole time, and so they're not a lot of us, but, you know.
Well, it was good to see him do as well as he did this weekend.
Yeah.
You know, here's the deal. All this kid has done has been loyal. I mean, he's just like the song says. He's loyal and true. He came here. He loves it. He was a Texas Tech Red Raider fan growing up, but he came here. He fell in love with it. He waited his turn. Is he as good as Mason Rudolph? Probably not. I can tell you sometimes in practice his arm, though, is so fun to watch because he throws lightning sometimes. I mean, I still don't think fans have seen in a game exactly as good as we've seen him be in practice at times. But I know we got to move on. But I'm just saying, this guy has been as loyal and true as you can get, and he's taken a lot of crap. As he played poorly at times, K-State was not very good, but for the most part, he's done his best, and it's been pretty good. So, okay. That's the Taylor Cornelius moment for the week, okay?
Well, I'll start off there. As we said, the 4-4 Baylor Bears, and they're 2-3 in the conference coming off. They essentially, I don't know if you'd call it a bye week, but they get that Thursday night game in Morgantown, so they had a weekend off, so a little mini bye week to prepare for the Cowboys.
Yeah, they had the weekend off before that Thursday game, too.
Yeah, that's good scheduling, but it didn't work.
It didn't work out very well.
It's good scheduling. So I'll go ahead and ask you. I don't know that you'll have the answer. Who's going to start at quarterback for the Baylor Bears Saturday?
You know, I think it'll be McClendon. I kind of do. I mean, Brewer is in concussion protocol. Apparently, it was, I mean, they took him out. They didn't see a particular player hit, but he was 1 for 8, and they just said he was not acting right. I mean, he was kind of, And it looked strange. And when they took him out and they did the initial testing, they realized, okay, something's wrong here. McClendon came in and threw the ball pretty well. We were talking about this before we came on. Matt Rule said this week in his press conference, the NFL, there's a lot of all-star games. Senior Bowl's the biggest, and then there's the East-West Shrine that's pretty big. College all-star games for the draftable players. Well, there's a third, the NFLPA game that's out on the West Coast. He's been selected for that already. He doesn't even start. So, and he's 6'5". He looks good, looks the part. So, I kind of think you're going to see McClendon. I really do.
Well, we've had the horror stories against backup quarterbacks here.
Yeah.
What's the difference between McClendon and Charlie Brewer? What's the difference for Jim Knowles preparing for this?
Not a lot, because they're going to do the same things, I think, with McClendon. He's not – can he move around a little bit? Yeah, but is he a mobile guy that you're going to dual threat? No, Baylor's a drop-back offense. They play drop-back in the passing game, play action, and they're going to let their running backs, Hasty and Hurd, and those guys do the bulk of the running. So, I don't think there's much difference at all. And you know what? There's some carryover because Baylor's got some receivers in Sims and in Hurd that are big, 6'3", 6'4" guys. And certainly Oklahoma State's had their practice last week in dealing with the big, taller, athletic, big play receivers like, Colin Johnson and Lil Jordan Humphrey for Texas. So I think you see a very similar attack, except not as good. Baylor's offensive line has struggled. They've given up 26 sacks, lots of tackles for losses. So if Jim Knowles is comfortable enough going back to the attack mode, the attack mode ought to work pretty good against Baylor.
So do you think, we talked about that long week not working going in, do you think it helps them coming into Oklahoma State? Could maybe take a reflection like Oklahoma State did on that bye week? Say, that hurt what just happened. Let's fix it this week.
They had a player-only team meeting.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, the whole recipe.
Great.
The whole recipe. Yeah. They pull that from Kansas State. You pull the backup quarterback from the Iowa State scenario. Yeah, guys.
Homecoming.
You know what? Homecoming.
Players-only meeting.
But you know what? This Cowboy team, after beating Texas, they're more equipped to handle this.
I hope so.
I got confidence. They're ready for this now.
Well, as soon as you told me players-only meeting, I just lost it all.
Well, when you told me backup quarterback.
This is like a final exam. All the things, all the bad things that have worked against you this season, they're all rolled up for Baylor, and they're going to throw them all at you. And top it with this. There's only one stadium in the Big 12 Mike Gundy has not coached a winning game.
McLean Stadium?
No, it's because he's only had a couple of tries in it. But still, I think the first one was Mason's. That was the first time OSU played down there, was Mason starting the rain in 14.
Now, they haven't had a lot of good trips down there since they built that new stadium.
No, but this is the third time.
Third time's
a charm.
There you go.
So, that makes it, man, that players-only meeting's been bugging me ever since you said, why? Can you not wait a week?
Yeah, no, hey, after they got thrashed by West Virginia. The funniest comment of Matt Rule's news conference this week is when we got there, they were trash-talking when we got off the bus. They trash-talked my son. They trash-talked me. He goes, we ran into an aggressive team that was fit. He goes, fitting to kick our butts, and they did. So the players had how about this? They topped K-State. K-State just had a players-only meeting to talk about how can we get better. Baylor's players had a player-only meeting and watched the whole tape of the West Virginia game together without coaches.
Oh no! Oh man! This an 11 a.m. kickoff. Robert, you could have gone all show with. I could have gone without knowing that. Oh man, this is bad.
Yeah.
This is bad, Logan.
Well, give us a key on offense to combat the players-only meeting.
The key on offense, to me, is very similar to what happened at Texas. What did the Cowboys do first? What did they beat Texas over the head with to begin with?
Everything.
The running game.
Yeah.
They ran the football. Justice got some big runs. Chuba got some big runs. They got the running game flowing, and now Texas is like, oh gosh, we got to stop the run. Got to run the football. Baylor, you know, K-State went in there before K-State even thought about running roughshod over Oklahoma State. They really ran roughshod over Baylor. Run the football. Hammer them with the run, and then everything else will click. That's the offensive key.
What's the defensive key?
Attack, attack, attack. I mean, get back to it's time for Jim Knowles to get back to what Jim Knowles and his defenses love to do. And if you get the backup quarterback, hey, backups go down harder than starters. Go get the backup.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is a team that lost to Duke in Waco. They're a better team now than they were then, but this team's still out there.
And Jim Knowles gets a lot of value out of that tape because Duke is still running his defense. That's the play. That's one of the games I keyed on to watch the Baylor offense, how they tried to attack that defense, because that's pretty much what Jim Knowles will go after him with this weekend.
So does that help Baylor as well? I've seen that defense at Duke.
It can, but I think it helps Jim Knowles better because he knows that defense. He knows how to make some adjustments that maybe didn't work for Duke. I would favor Jim Knowles on that video matchup.
But I would think it's fair while we have time to credit the job Matt Rule's done, because
they're better.
I didn't think that hiring him was a good idea. Coming from Temple, you have an East Coast guy coming into a dumpster fire. The smoke, they talk about the fine that they just got yesterday. But he's hired a lot of Texas guys on his staff. He's made the
high school guys.
Yeah, I mean, he has figured out the recruiting thing, and he at least comes across as an intelligent guy that's trying to do it the right way. And credit Baylor, the few right steps that they've made is hiring him. What kind of job has he done? I know they're 4-4, but he's picked them up.
Yeah, I'll tell you what kind of job he's done. He was a serious candidate for the Indianapolis Colts job. I mean, I know he took his name out, but the Colts really liked him. And I've got some people that think he's going to get an NFL job offer after this season, that another NFL team has him in mind. Of course, they haven't fired their coach yet. It's not Cleveland.
No, it's just probably your Denver Broncos.
Yeah. No, it's not
Dallas?
Denver either. No.
The Giants, all of them.
Tampa Bay.
Hey, the respect for him goes all the way to that level. So, and I think he's done a really good job. I mean, I honestly think Oklahoma State wins Saturday, but I don't think it'll be easy. I think this will be a difficult win to get.
Well, add it to the list, Logan. Players only meeting, homecoming backup quarterback, and Robert picking the Cowboys. So this is a recipe for
the
disaster.
Cowboys have won with me. I am not an albatross. Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me.
We're trying to put it on Robert. I think that the Cowboys. I'll let you go first. Go ahead. Your game prediction.
Okay, I think the Cowboys are going to win this one. I'm worried that they might come out a little flat after the homecoming game. You know, Barry Sanders, old uniforms, big crowd. It's the first big crowd they've had all year, and they might come out a little flat. But I think they're just flat out better than Baylor. And so I'm going to pick them to win this week. I'm not going to pick against them 2 weeks in a row.
Ooh, you ready for this?
Yeah. Are you flipping the script, Reed?
No, I think you're kind of right. You worry about coming out a little flat, but I think that win energized this entire program. They shut people up because they can say they don't listen all they want. They've got ears just like everyone else. They may not be affected by it like you think, but they're human.
Yeah.
And they shut people up, and that gave them the confidence that they had earlier, especially off that Boise win. I think it's going to be an aggravating first half for the Cowboys, but I think eventually they look back at that Texas win and go, yeah, we're better than Baylor. Because I think they're better than a lot of teams that they've been beaten by this year. I think that they go to Baylor. It's a tough first half, but I think in the end that still mix Chuba in there and Justice. Taylor has another big game. I think the Cowboys are going to be sitting bowl eligible by this time next week.
I hope you're right.
That makes me so happy. You'll get to go on a trip for over the holidays, Robert.
And I tell you what, it's nice because the last time I did not go, last time I spent Christmas at home was 2005, Gundy's first season.
It's a long time ago.
You know what? And you get used to it. A lot of people say, God, how do you like Christmas on the road? But our family's gotten to the point where that's what we're used to.
Yeah.
So we have just over a minute here. I'll ask you really quickly, Robert. An interesting game, the Big 12. 15, Texas is hosting number 17 Texas, hosting number 12, West Virginia. How do you see that game going in Austin?
You know what? I think it'll be a highly competitive game. Obviously, Texas is going to be, pretty determined after what happened in Stillwater last week. I picked West Virginia, but barely. And I think Texas better get ready for the treatment. The treatment they're used to having from the officials, they may find going against them.
What about the 7th-ranked Sooners? In night, the primetime game in Lubbock, they're going to be throwing tortillas.
Oklahoma wins big.
Oh. Big.
I think what happened to Tech at Iowa State last week, that could teeter them off the edge, and we could see Tech go back to being Tech.
It doesn't bother me any.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me any.
No, I think Oklahoma wins big.
Alabama, LSU.
Alabama.
Yeah, I think Alabama.
Bold pick.
Yeah,
You know what? I know they're playing Kansas this week. Beware the Cyclones. That's not a joke. The committee put them in at 24. I still think it's going to be Oklahoma playing Iowa State in a rematch in Arlington for the Big 12.
Well, it'll be interesting. We'll see you back next Wednesday. Thank you for watching One-on-One on OSU Student Radio, KCUI, Sunlink, Channel 112.
Determining your future by selecting a major can be difficult.
It's okay to be undecided.
Connect with the College of Arts and Sciences, where your options are endless.
Where you can uncover your passions and achieve your goals.
Express your creativity by exploring a career in the visual and performing arts.
Investigate new discoveries to make the world a better place with a career in science.
Advance knowledge, communicate progress, and contribute to a healthier planet with a career rooted in the social sciences.
Discover your career by looking at the world from different perspectives through the humanities.
Realize a better tomorrow through problem solving and mining data that can change lives.
CAS prepares you to succeed through internships, study abroad, student-guided research projects, and service activities.
With 109 majors, 52 minors, and 24 departments, the only thing missing is you. College of Arts and Sciences.
Connect.
Achieve. Succeed.
When you have a team of physicians and nurses that really truly care.
On this week's edition of the Polk Report, we'll take a look at students overcoming injuries, adversity,
and keeping you up to date on upsets and transitions here at Oklahoma State.
all of that and more on the Polk Report. Welcome to the Polk Report. I'm Thomas Fleming.
And I'm Robin Hearn.
And we're starting off the show with one of the biggest OSU upsets in recent football memory. The Cowboys hosted number 6 Texas this past weekend on primetime television. Our own Lee Drake takes a deeper look into the storybook ending of the Cowboys' homecoming game.
As the Cowboys stormed out of the tunnel to the phrase, "I'm coming and hell's coming with me," there was uncertainty to whether or not the Pokes could actually keep up with the 6th-ranked Texas Longhorns. The first points of the evening were scored when Taylor Cornelius in the offense struck first with this 40-yard touchdown to Tylan Wallace. The pass was the first of 3 throwing touchdowns Cornelius would have en route to going 23 of 34 with 321 passing yards. Texas then tied the game with a Sam Ellinger touchdown run. However, this would be the last time the teams would be tied for the night. Texas had a chance to gain the momentum early in the first when Cornelius was faced with a 4th and 1. However, he faked out the Texas defense and found Jelani Woods wide open in the end zone for a touchdown. The defense then made their presence known to Ellinger and company by forcing 4 consecutive stops, 2 of the 4 being 3 and outs. The 6th-ranked Texas Longhorns weren't going to go down without a fight. At the midway point of the second quarter, Ellinger found his way into the end zone for a second touchdown to put the game at 24-14. But Cornelius answered again. It was on 4th and 1, and he finds Tylen Wallace for a 36-yard touchdown, giving the Pokes a 31-14 lead at half. But it wasn't until late in the fourth quarter that the play of the night would occur. Cornelius took the game into his own hand by rolling out and sacrificing his body, leaping into the end zone to seal the game for the Pokes. Texas would score again, but they'd fail to recover the onside kick, leaving Cornelius in the victory formation. Longhorn defensive end Brecken Hager didn't take kindly to the outcome of the game, and before it was over, he continued battling through the whistle, sparking a conflict. At this point, Gundy rushed out to protect his players and make sure no fight would occur, but Texas head coach Tom Herman took exception to this act.
I thought Mike had come out and was having words with one of our players, and I took exception to that. And when I shook his hand at the end, he said, "Hey, I was just trying to make sure that we were smart and no fight ensued."
On homecoming, the Cowboys managed to upset the Longhorns 38-35, and Mike Gundy shared his thoughts on the upset.
I thought our offensive line was excellent. In fact, I thought in the first half they were somewhat dominant for where we've been during the year. Defensively, we were good. I had concerns about covering the big athletic wide receivers. I thought our corners, safeties fought their butt off. Even when they made plays, we had them covered.
For the Poke Report, I'm Lee Drake.
Saturday's game is hopefully the spark OSU needs to finish this season strong, especially with so many tough road games ahead. Our own head coach Mike Gundy even took the time to thank the student section in this week's press conference.
That was the best atmosphere that we've had in a long time here, in my opinion. And if we want to continue to grow this program, it can't just be the coaches and players. It's got to be the people involved.
The Cowboys will be on the road to Waco to face the Baylor Bears this Saturday. Kickoff is 11 a.m.
And speaking of tough Big 12 road games, it's important to look at the bigger picture. Our own Tanner Kennan looks inside some of the recent matchups within the Big 12.
Thanks, Thomas. Even though the weekend's most exciting game took place right here in Stillwater, there were intriguing matchups all over the conference. Top 10 teams lose every single week, but one Big 12 team accomplished something that has not been done since October 2009. The Kansas Jayhawks welcomed in the TCU Horned Frogs for the Big 12 Game of the Week. First possession for the Jayhawks, and they are on the 1-yard line, and the Wildcat works to perfection, and Khalil Herbert walks in untouched. Not a lot of offense in the first half, but with just under 3 minutes in the second quarter, Michael Collins finds Jalen Rager deep over the middle. Rager does the rest to put TCU up 3 at the half. KU trying to retake the lead, Peyton Bender launches one, and Stephon Robinson gives up his body and makes the catch to keep the drive alive. A few plays later, Bender scrambles and finds Puka Williams Jr. from 7 yards out for a touchdown. But after a 41-yard completion to Rager, Michael Collins fakes the handoff and scores on the read option. After 2 Jayhawk field goals, TCU on the goal line again, and Collins takes it in again to put the Horned Frogs up 24-20. But on the very next drive, Bender throws a bubble screen to Williams, and he weaves through a mess of defenders and finds the end zone. The Jayhawks come out on top, ending their 38-game October losing streak and picking up their first Big 12 win of the season. Iowa State gets its 3rd straight conference win, beating Texas Tech 40-31. Oklahoma and West Virginia both take care of business at home, winning by a combined 81 points. I'm Tanner Kennan, and that was your Big 12 recap. Back to you, Thomas.
Thanks, Tanner. There's more to the Big 12 than just Cowboy football, but there's also more to football than the game itself.
That's right, Thomas, and I had the chance to sit down with one member of the OSU color guard to talk about how he's standing out. Take a look.
Trying something new can be hard, but that wasn't the case for OSU color guard member Luis Lopez. Luis did sports and had a passion for dancing most of his life. Once he entered high school, he got into cheerleading, and after football season was over, he was looking for something else to do. That's when one of his teachers approached him to try his hand at the winter guard team. He did, and he never put the flag down since. The sport of the arts, as it's called, captivated Luis from the start with the mixture of dance and telling a story out on the football field.
Either contemporary ballet, contemporary dancing, lyrical dancing, sometimes hip-hop, so it's like a whole bunch of dancing that was involved.
Before entering his freshman year of college, Luis read an article that said the biggest mistake freshmen make is not getting involved. Luis knew that he didn't want to be like the statistic, so he auditioned for the OSU Color Guard and made it. Being a part of the Cowboy Marching Band was one of the biggest highlights of his freshman year, and being the only guy on the team hasn't set him apart. In fact, it's made him better.
It might be hard for fans to spot Luis on the field during the performance, but he uses that time to get the energy that he gets from the fans to accelerate his performance even better. He also uses this time to show off a little bit of his personality.
Luis uses his big personality as a way to get people around him to always have a smile on their face, whether it's at practice or during the game. And because of this, OSU Color Guard captain Rebecca says that his positive energy has benefited the team as a whole.
Times during practice, he's one of the people that take charge, take initiative. He oftentimes helps people with whatever they need whenever the captains aren't there.
And Luis does go above and beyond for his team. He now runs the team's Instagram page with posting content from the games and events. Color Guard has become his life so much that he wants to graduate with a degree in graphic design to use to design different outfits for Color Guard teams around the nation. You can say Luis will always be looking to leave his mark wherever he goes. For the Poke Report, I'm Robin Hearn.
I had the best time talking with Luis and his team. His personality is so big, it would fill this arena and then some.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll take a look at what's going on in this very court in the coming weeks. Don't go anywhere.
The deli department at Homeland is Oklahoma's headquarters for party trays. Enjoy the time with family and friends at your next event, and let your neighborhood Homeland create the perfect fruit, deli, or cheese tray for you. The party planners at Homeland will help you choose the perfect party food, sized just right for your guests. Call us, stop in, or order online, and we'll make it ready for pickup on your schedule. Make your next party special with a party tray from your neighborhood Homeland. Good to be home, Homeland.
Introducing Lincoln Black Label at Diffie Ford Lincoln. Designed to impress those with impeccable taste, Lincoln Black Label features a collection of interior themes and a host of exclusive membership privileges inspired by attention to detail and a love of automobiles. With Lincoln Black Label, you'll enjoy an extended premium maintenance plan that covers wear items or even remote vehicle delivery. Lincoln Black Label isn't about luxury ownership, it's about membership. Lincoln Black Label, exclusively at Diffie Ford Lincoln.
Welcome back to the Poke Report.
And we are here on the court as we ease into basketball season. The Cowboys are coming off a surprising 21-win season last year, and they're looking to build off of that. Our own Brandon Davis has more.
50 miles down the road. Solomon, good shot.
The OSU men's basketball team exceeded expectations last season. Led by seniors Jeffrey Carroll and Mitchell Solomon, the Cowboys went 21-15 in the quarterfinals in the NIT tournament. In those 21 wins, the Cowboys defeated Kansas and Oklahoma twice. But Mike Boynton believes the ride is as smooth as ever.
Fortunate, we had some really good upperclassmen. I was surrounded by a great staff who, all helped me kind of keep the ship above sea and moving in the right direction. And now we have had some transition.
The Cowboys will need to lead on junior guard Lindy Waters and junior forward Cam McGriff to lead them, as they are the highest scorers returning from last season. For McGriff, he believes that the team already has an advantage thanks to its European trip back in September.
We went to Europe a lot. I think we were a step further than I would say a lot of other teams were. although we have the most new players on the team at once, I think that we might have like a little head start.
Us, me, Thomas, and Cam, maybe Mike and Cujo, we know a lot more than the freshmen do, and we have to move as fast as they can move. We can't go faster.
We're into a new vogue now in our program, and there's some excitement in Stillwater again about basketball and what the program can be again as it once was under Coach Sutton. So we're really excited about the opportunity to build it again.
The Cowboys started its 2018-2019 campaign this Sunday against Washita Baptist in an expeditionary match at Gallagher-Iba Arena. The Cowboys' first regular season game will be at Charlotte on November 10th. For the Poke Report, I'm Brandon Davis.
Thanks, Brandon. I think we're all looking forward to watching the Cowboy basketball team this season.
Well, Thomas, Cowgirl basketball season is about to start as well.
That's right. They're coming off a Sweet 16 appearance in the NCAA tournament, and there are high hopes for this year's squad. Our own Dawson Ewers has more.
November is here, and that means college basketball is about to start in Stillwater for the Oklahoma State Cowgirls. The Cowgirls are returning this year after last season's 21-11 record, going 11-7 in the Big 12, and making an appearance in the NCAA Women's Basketball Tournament. The departure of seniors Kaylee Jensen and Lauren Goodwin leaves a gap to be filled by this year's Cowgirls.
The one that played the most minutes and had the most accolades out of our team was Braxton Miller, so we're going to look for her to have a lot of leadership on this team.
Even after losing its top two scorers from last season, Coach Littell says he's putting no limitations on his expectations for the Cowgirls this upcoming season. And with the regular season right around the corner, the Cowgirls will soon show if their hard work during the offseason has paid off here in Gallagher-Iba Arena.
The Cowgirls season opener is on November 9th at home against Arkansas State, followed by 3 more games in Gallagher-Iba Arena against UC Riverside, Prairie View A&M, and Samford. As the home opener nears, OSU fans aren't the only ones excited for the season to begin. Braxton Miller expressed how she is looking forward to get the season in full swing.
One thing that really excites me about the team is our chemistry is really good. We really like each other and just want to see each one of us, succeed and whatever it takes to have the best team out there and do our best. So that's one thing that's super exciting, just seeing us all play together with all of our different abilities and talents and putting it all together.
And Coach Littell notices the chemistry this group of Cowgirls has, as well as the new faces that attribute to the 2018-2019 Cowgirls team.
Well, we're really excited. We feel like we've got a lot of work left to do. We've got a lot of new faces in the gym right now, but we're just going to continue to work hard and try to progress each day.
It won't be until January 2nd until the Cowgirls open up Big 12 play against Texas, that is ranked 11th in the preseason rankings. And with their eyes set on continuously improving year after year, it will be exciting to see what veterans step into leadership positions and what new faces shine in the light that is Big 12 basketball. For the Poke Report, I'm Dawson Ewers.
Thanks, Dawson. The Cowgirls have already beaten Northeastern State in exhibition play 70-37.
Wow, Gallagher-Iba is about to be a hot spot once the Cowgirl season gets back up and running. From the court to the course, Atlanta's East Lake Golf Club is where Oklahoma State's men's golf team teed off earlier this week to finish out their fall season. Jason Colicchio has more on that outcome.
The #1 ranked Cowboys look to take momentum from their dominant 32-stroke victory at the Royal Oaks Intercollegiate last week into the East Lake Cup. This 3-day 4-team event began Monday and featured real powerhouse teams all in the top 25, including #2 Duke, #4 Alabama, and #20 Auburn. Day 1 worked out in the favor of the Pokes with the stroke play round. Junior Victor Hovland claimed his second individual title of the fall season, posting a 4-under-68 at the par 72. He opened the day with 2 straight pars, followed by birdies at the 3rd, 4th, and 6th hole. His back 9 consisted of 8 pars, along with an impressive eagle on a par 5 on the 14th. Hovland talked about the keys to his 4-month continued success after the round.
Not trying to do anything too fancy when I'm out there. I can kind of go crazy trying to do a little too much, so it's just kind of okay, try to hit the fairway, try to hit the green, and make some putts, and usually a good score, so just trying to make things simple.
Day 2 started off well for the Cowboys as they had a rematch of last year's NCAA title match, in which Oklahoma State shut out Alabama 5-0. Alabama's David Shore found himself behind the whole match as sophomore Matthew Wolf quickly got a 3-up advantage by the 5th hole and stuck with it to the start of the back 9. Wolf didn't look back and got his team the first point of the day by rolling in a long birdie at the 15th hole. Compliments on staying focused on the goal of winning came from head coach Alan Bratton after Wolf's match.
Well, they've just stayed focused on their goals. Everybody's got a job to do today, which is win their match, and Matt did a good job of that. It was fun to watch, and I just tried to stay out of his way and enjoy the good golf.
Hovland won his match to put the Pokes up 2-0, and it was looking like another win. But Alabama showed why they are also ranked in the top 5, as Prescott Butler, Davis Riley, and Wilson Furr swept the rest of the matches to give the Crimson Tide a 3-2 victory in the semifinals, knocking the Cowboys out of the event and effectively ending their fall season. The Cowboys will start the spring season February 7th at the Amer Ari Invitational in Hawaii, still ranked number 1. For the Poke Report, I'm Jason Colicchio.
That's probably not the way they wanted to end their fall season, but they'll be back as strong as ever, hopefully to bring another championship home to Stillwater. Now we're going to do another season transition as the Cowgirls soccer team season came to a close.
In a Thursday night matchup, the Cowgirls soccer team lost to number 25 TCU at home to close out the year. Freshman Grace Yoakum had the Horned Frogs scrambling after scoring the game's first goal in the 8th minute. The point wasn't answered until the second half when TCU scored 2 goals to take control of the game. In the 77th minute, senior Rachel Van Fossen equalized the game with a goal in the box to tie. Despite the team's efforts, the Cowgirls fell short after a late goal by the Horned Frogs in the 83rd minute. Because of the loss, the Cowgirls weren't able to secure a bid in the Big 12 Championship tournament in Kansas City, but they'll look to reclaim their championship title in 2019.
Well, thanks for catching us up on their season. But when we come back, we're going to take a look at 2 sports that might not even be on your radar yet. Stay tuned.
I want to show you something. This is the money we could save by switching from fresh packed California crushed tomatoes to concentrated tomato paste.
I want to show you something too. I got a new door. Go take a look at it.
Nobody uses better ingredients than Little Caesars. Like fresh packed California crushed tomatoes. Pick up a large, deep dish for just $8.
Pizza, pizza. At ASAP Energy, our goal is to provide the best customer service for whatever our clients need.
My relationship with ASAP Energy came about in 2007. I was wanting to build a convenience store. I didn't know how to do it. I'd never been in the business. I just felt comfortable with Rick. And so I knew that I wanted to do business with a guy like that. Integrity, loyalty, and family. I would recommend that to anybody. Thanks for taking a chance on me.
At ASAP Energy, everything matters.
Where were you born? It's a question asked all the time. Because where you're from shapes who you are, inspires how you do things. And when that inspiration comes from a place this refreshing, this majestic, this... well, you get the idea. Coors Light, born in the Rockies.
Hi, it's Sam at Louis Grill and Bar, here to introduce our new menu items from south of the border. Come try our new poblano chicken tacos, or the ever-popular sriracha shrimp tacos. At Louis, where you come for the food, but stay for the fun.
Love these things. Hilarious. I'm sorry, force of habit.
As long as you are you, it's Miller time.
Welcome back to the Poke Report, and we are here in historic Gallagher-Iba Arena.
That's right, this incredible gym hosts many of OSU's sporting events, but let's hit the dirt. The Oklahoma State softball fall season has come to an end, but our very own Ivan Siddlehong went to the last game to see how the girls did before taking this long hiatus.
The fall ball season is coming to an end, and the Cowgirls are looking to wrap things up in a perfect fashion. OSU welcomes the Butler Grizzlies in Stillwater for the last game before the spring 2019 season. The Cowgirls couldn't ask for a better start, as sophomore Sydney Pennington smashed a grand slam over the stadium, giving Oklahoma State 4 runs early in the game. Being up 6-0 in the start of the second innings, the Grizzlies responded back with them making 2 runs of their own and cutting OSU lead into 4. Pitcher Samantha Shaw was caught zoning out a little, and Butler capitalized their chances. However, it didn't take long for the Cowgirls to get back in the game. Michaela Richburg played a double and later advanced to third on the throw, allowing Shaw to extend OSU lead. The Cowgirls remained dominant for the rest of the game, not allowing Grizzlies to score any more runs. OSU won the game 12-2, with most of the damage done in the first 4 innings.
The Cowgirls finished their fall season undefeated with a 6-0 record. And despite having most of these games as a preparation for the spring season, it is still an impressive record to hold for them.
Oklahoma State won most of their fall games convincingly, outscoring their opposition 92-16. And Pennington is the standout player. She closed out her season in high, making 4 home runs and 11 RBI, higher than any of the Cowgirls. Head coach Kenny Gajowski looks to be enjoying the rather stress-free fall ball season, but he still remains vocal with the team.
Let's go, keep grinding out the at-bats, good at-bats, forget the elements, let's go, score 3 here. Gotta score 3 here, let's go.
As the season ends, fans now have to wait patiently until next year to see the Cowgirls back in action again. For the Poke Report, I'm Ivan Sitohang.
It's always good to end your season with a win. The Cowgirls have another 3 months to prepare for the 2019 season. In similar fashion, baseball's around the corner.
Yes, and head coach of the Cowboys, Josh Holliday, and his Pokes are ready to play their final season in Ali P. Reynolds Stadium.
The new stadium kind of gives us a chance to elevate our program in the eyes of others, in the eyes of recruits. It gives us an area to train that gives us a chance to advance our players' development quicker, and gives our fans and our overall program a chance for growth and potential. We've had so many celebrated players, teams, coaches, contributors, donors that have helped make everything we've enjoyed to this point a reality, and we take that with us to the new stadium as we try to build and write new history.
Robin, baseball season seems like it's forever away.
It does, and for pitcher Jensen Elliott, his road to recovery seemed like a lifetime. Injuries can happen to college athletes at unfortunate times. Our very own Haley Woodard sat down with Jensen to talk about his road to recovery and his eagerness to get back on the mound.
Coming out of high school, Jensen Elliott was an All-American pitcher recruited by TCU, OSU, Arkansas, and OU. In his freshman year at Oklahoma State, Jensen quickly became the starting Sunday afternoon pitcher for the Cowboys. And midway through conference play, Jensen earned his spot as the Friday night starter. Jensen earned more All-American honors as a freshman and helped lead the Cowboys to Omaha as one of the final 8 teams in the NCAA tournament. After a standout performance as a freshman, Jensen was expected to do more great things as a sophomore. But on March 12, 2017, Jensen sustained an unexpected and tragic injury.
The 4th week of my sophomore season, I was pitching, and the day after I felt a little discomfort in my elbow, and I didn't really know what it was at first, and then I went and got an MRI and realized that I tore my UCL and eventually got Tommy John surgery, which, growing up in baseball, you know what Tommy John surgery is, and it's just a devastating injury. So as soon as I got it, instead of just dwelling on it, I just kind of turned to my faith and my family, and they just got me through everything.
Another thing that helped get Jensen through his recovery was how much his pitching coach believed in him.
You know, he's one of our best athletes, 6'5", 6'6". You know, he's smart, he's intelligent, he's athletic, he works hard, he's what you look for in a premier college pitcher, and definitely has a major league future as well.
After Tommy John, I realized I could overcome anything that was sent my way, so my goal for this year is just lead this team back to the College World Series and eventually win a national championship.
After being forced to stay in the dugout for 13 months, Jensen is just simply looking to get back out on the mound again and help lead his team back to the College World Series. For the Poke Report, I'm Haley Woodard.
Thank you, Haley. I honestly can say I can't wait to see Jensen back on the mound, and I hope the Cowboys be back in Omaha this season.
Well, after many major upsets last week, there are many college football playoff spots up for grabs, and now it's time for our college football picks. Let's start it off with LSU and Alabama. Who you got, Robin?
All right, let me take my jacket off for this one. It's going to get a little hot. But I have LSU for this one. I think LSU is going to give Bama a run for their money because the Tigers beat Georgia, so this should be a good game for the Tigers.
I got to go against your pick here, Robin, and take the Crimson Tide here. I think that in the battle of the two quarterbacks, Tua will outduel Joe Burrow 10 times out of 10, and I think the Crimson Tide's offense will find a way to put up a ton of points, especially breaking them down in the second half. Now we move to the Big Ten and Michigan and Penn State. Who do you got on this one?
I'm going to take Michigan on this one. I think that they're the better team, and they're coming together as a team. And Penn State's quarterback, Trace McSorley, is coming off of his injury from last week. So I think Michigan is going to utilize that, and they're going to have to come at him. So I have Michigan on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you on this one. McSorley has been taking a ton of hits this season, running the ball, getting hit in the backfield. His completion percentage has dipped to 52%, and I think the Wolverines will come out with this one. Our next game now moves to the Big 12, and Texas, coming off that tough loss to Oklahoma State, will take on West Virginia. Who do you have?
I'm going to take the Mountaineers for this one. I think that it will be a close game, but the Mountaineers have a better team because they beat Baylor last week 58-14, scoring 31 points in the second quarter alone.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you on this one. I think the Mountaineers have it, and Will Greer showing why he's one of the best quarterbacks, not only in the Big 12, but the country as well. And our final game, now our game of the week. Oklahoma State travels to Waco, Texas to take on the Baylor Bears. Both teams 2-3 in conference play, trying to earn that third Big 12 win. Who do you have here?
Well, I don't know. I want to know who you have since you picked against us last week.
Okay, but didn't I say that I hoped I was wrong, and I was wrong, and I'm very happy that I was. I am personally taking Oklahoma State. Baylor has struggled offensively this season. They're one of the worst teams in the Big 12 in turnover margin, and they have question marks at quarterback. I have to take the Cowboys on this one.
I have to agree with you. I have the Cowboys winning this one. I think that they're going to utilize the fact that the Baylor lost really bad last week, like I mentioned earlier, to get this win, and they're coming off of the high from the homecoming win, so I think the Cowboys will definitely win this one out.
Well, that does us here for the Poke Report, both for Robin and myself and the entire crew. We want to thank you for watching, and as always, go Pokes.
Welcome into your Oklahoma State franchise pregame show. Colby Powell and Donovan Woods with you here on Cox Channel 1334. We'll be joined shortly here on 107.7 The Franchise and 107.9 The Franchise in Tulsa, since Oklahoma has a 12-hour pregame leading up to the OU Texas Tech game, sneaking us in for just a few minutes prior to Oklahoma State getting kicked off with Baylor.
12-hour pregame for that school.
12-hour pregame. Aren't you glad we don't do 12-hour pregame shows? I don't know if we could fill 12 hours.
We get some material in there. Talk a little UFC, a little professional
you are a
football.
UFC guy, aren't you?
I am.
Cormier and Lewis tonight.
I'm looking forward to it.
Cormier
man.
easy though, right?
Cormier easy, man. He is an absolute phenomenon, man. The dude is good.
Yeah.
And when you look at him, you wouldn't think that he'd be the best fighter in the world. But, man, he's right up there.
Yeah, he's crazy. Let's welcome in our radio listeners here on 107.7 The Franchise and 107.9 The Franchise in Tulsa. Colby Powell and Donovan Woods along with you. We're in Stillwater, and we're getting ready for Oklahoma State and Baylor. We were talking UFC, actually, whenever we came in. We were already on TV, and we were talking about Derek Lewis and Daniel Cormier getting ready to. Did you hear what Derek Lewis said earlier in the week?
I did, man. Everyone's kind of heard about it. He's a character, man, and
he's something.
You kind of have to have something, with the kind of era that we're in nowadays with Twitter and Instagram. Those little sound bites and stuff. He definitely has it, and
we won't repeat it. It's certainly not appropriate for us to say.
Go Google it though. He's got some pretty good post-fight interviews. So
yeah, just Google Derek Lewis. I don't even know what you'd put after that. Just Google Derek Lewis and see what pops up. You can thank us later for sure. Oklahoma State and Baylor getting kicked off here in about an hour and a half in Waco. This is Baylor's homecoming. Actually, the only reason that I know that is because my mom and my sister are in Waco. They went down there for some sort of conference this weekend and realized they couldn't get a hotel within 60 miles of Waco. So they're staying like 65 miles outside Waco, but they did go ahead and get tickets. So they're going to go to the game today, and they'll be one of the, I'm sure, 25,000 people in the stadium for Baylor's homecoming to watch Oklahoma State and Baylor. When I think tough places to play in the Big 12, Oklahoma State has actually struggled in Waco, but it's not a place that I think of as difficult to play. I think of Lubbock, I think of Ames, I think of Morgantown, I think of maybe even Manhattan a little bit. Waco never really pops into my head in that discussion.
No, I don't think I ever played in the stadium that they play in now, but definitely
McLean Carter.
Yeah. I don't think I ever played there. I got a chance to kind of see what it looks like and get a feel for it. Last year, I took a conference down there for work, and we got a chance to tour the stadium and facilities, and it's a nice place, but Oklahoma State shouldn't have any problem going down there. It's not OU, it's not Lubbock. So they should be able to go down there and take care of business, even on homecoming.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a close game. I think obviously Oklahoma State is coming off an extreme high with the win over Texas a week ago, and then Baylor's coming off of an extreme low, getting drugged 58-14 by West Virginia last Thursday. Couple extra weeks to prepare. I just think when teams come off an extreme high, I think there's bound to be a little bit of a letdown, and whenever teams get embarrassed, I think there's bound to be a little bit of a bounce back from that team. I do think this is kind of a tricky spot for Oklahoma State. I think they're a little bit better than Baylor. I don't think they're a lot better than Baylor from what we've seen throughout this season. We have to remember, as good as they looked against Boise State and against Texas is how bad they looked against Texas Tech, Iowa State, and Kansas State. So I feel like with the inconsistencies that Oklahoma State has shown throughout the season, do I think they're going to beat Baylor? Probably. I think they'd probably beat Baylor.
They should.
But I think it's close, and I don't feel real confident in saying that just because of the inconsistencies we've seen throughout the season from this Oklahoma State team.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think from my end, if the starting quarterback plays, he's had some issues. I think with a concussion, if he plays, then I think it's a little bit tougher ball game. But if the backup plays, Oklahoma State should be able to get after him. We've gotten after the quarterback all season long. So that's one of the deals that is a key to the game for me. Anytime you have a situation, like I said all the time in the pre-games, I love backup quarterbacks. It hadn't necessarily gone that way with Iowa State and a couple of others this season, but normally when you play against backup quarterbacks, you're supposed to have a good day and you do some things pressure-wise that maybe you wouldn't do with a veteran guy back there.
Yeah, and I think Oklahoma State will do some things with their pressure anyway. I think Baylor lacks a little bit on the offensive line. Charlie Brewer has cleared concussion protocol, so he is available. Everything that I found says that he's available. Nothing says that he's starting, but he's the starting quarterback and he's available. So put two and two together. I would imagine that you'll see Charlie Brewer out there, and he's a good player. Like I said, I think Baylor, they've got some struggles on the offensive line that they're going to have to rectify at some point if they want to take that next step as a program. But you look at what Baylor has become, it was the Art Briles show, and obviously he wasn't doing things the right way off the field. On the field, though, they were tough to deal with. They got that new stadium built down there. The whole reason they built that stadium is because they started winning games. They were winning games because they were cheating and they were keeping some not so reputable characters on their roster and on their coaching staff. And then it all came to a crashing halt. Now Matt Rule's down there, and I actually think Matt Rule's doing a pretty good job considering the circumstances. I thought at the time he took over, it was a nearly impossible situation. I thought whenever he took over that it was one of the most difficult spots in the country to come into what Baylor was going through and take over that head coaching job. But he's done a nice job of putting a couple classes together, and they only won a game last year. They've still got an outside shot to make a bowl game this year. So I think Matt Rule's a pretty good coach.
I agree with you. Which one do you think is a tougher situation to go to, Baylor or the Cleveland Browns right now?
That is a good question. Probably Baylor because of the sanctions. All that you have to worry about in Cleveland is losing. At Baylor, you might have to worry about getting punished for what somebody else did. Let's just go ahead and dive into that. This is 107.7 The Franchise, 107.9 The Franchise in Tulsa. Donovan Woods is with me. I'm Colby Powell here on your Oklahoma State Franchise pregame show as we get ready for Oklahoma State and Baylor, but we're talking some Oklahoma and Texas Tech tonight as well as we're getting you ready all day here on the Franchise for Oklahoma and Texas Tech, which will air right here on the Franchise at 7 o'clock tonight, and it'll be over at about 2 o'clock tomorrow morning. That's how those OU Tech games usually go. That Cleveland Browns job that has now come open, everyone's talked all week about Lincoln Riley and what the chances are that he would want to take that job. Here's my first question for you. Just in general, how do you compare NFL jobs to college jobs? Some people think that the elite college jobs are better than NFL jobs because you don't have, owners that you're dealing with and all those different things in the NFL. I'm a guy, I think recruiting would be awful. I could never be a recruiter. That just sounds miserable to me. For that reason, I think NFL, it's more of a personal preference for me. I also think accomplishing something at the highest level of the sport just means a little bit more. So where do you stand on NFL head coaching jobs versus elite blue blood collegiate head coaching jobs?
I would probably lean towards the college, even though I'm right there with you with the recruiting and everything. If you're not at the top of the sport and you can just be a Nick Saban or an Urban Meyer or Lincoln Riley and just go right in, it's difficult to get the kind of guys that you want to be able to get. And then with recruiting, you don't have to necessarily, in the NFL, you don't have to deal with some of those things. But it all depends on what you want to do. I would probably, like I said, lean toward college if I was one of those top of the food chain guys. But if I was just kind of one of those middle of the road coaches, well, just go ahead and put me in the NFL and pay me a lot of money.
Yeah, you can make a lot of money in the NFL or collegiately at these elite schools. You see what Nick Saban and Jim Harbaugh and Urban Meyer and those guys are making. They're making $8+ million a year. Dabo Swinney at Clemson is obviously a great job. Do you think that Lincoln Riley would leave Oklahoma to take a job in the NFL?
He's really very young in his career,
35
being
years
a head
old.
coach, and then talk about him just being a young guy. Period. I'm only 33 years old, and just imagine me in 2 years running a program or something as big as Oklahoma is unimaginable for me, and I'm sure for a lot of people that are sitting in the same seat. Just imagine being a CEO or a president of something as big and as important and prestigious as the University of Oklahoma football coach. So that's a huge deal. But I think listening to some of his comments, he's been and said that he's happy where he is. Oklahoma is a very prestigious job, but the lure of the NFL is strong. And if he wants to go and, like you said, prove at the very highest level of the sport that he's one of the best to do it, then that may be something that lures him to the NFL. He's getting paid enough money. That's not going to be an issue, but it could just be one of those deals where I want to prove that I'm the best and I want to show you on the highest stage.
Yeah, and you look at the temptation for Lincoln Riley. I think the temptation for Lincoln Riley, more than just going to the NFL, is the chance to coach Baker Mayfield again, who's one of the best players I'm sure he's ever coached. And he might not ever have the opportunity to coach Baker Mayfield again. It's a very unique situation where a head coach who is already being rumored for NFL jobs anyway has a quarterback who wins the Heisman. Those guys love each other, and then that quarterback's coach gets fired mid-season of his rookie year, and now Lincoln Riley's going to get a call from the Cleveland Browns. So I think the temptation, more so than going to coach in the NFL, is going to coach Baker Mayfield again. Now, he very well may turn that down and stay in Norman. I'd probably put the chances that he stays in Norman at 60-40, but there is some temptation to go coach Baker Mayfield because that's not an opportunity that's likely going to arise again.
Yeah, and that was a dynamic that I hadn't really heard out there. So, I mean, really that kind of, puts me in a situation or an opinion that, that allure is a little bit stronger, definitely with You coach a guy that has obviously built a really strong relationship with a player. One of the things about coaching and players, coaches really, fall in love with their guys. If they go to Detroit, then they bring guys, from their previous stops on their coaching tour, and they kind of want to have a situation where they have some familiarity with some of those guys. So, yeah, that's an interesting point you just brought up there.
Yeah, it is. We'll see how it plays itself out. Donovan Woods is with me. I'm Colby Powell. This year, Oklahoma State Franchise Pregame Show, 107.7 The Franchise, 107.9 The Franchise in Tulsa. Some of the bigger games today in the Big 12, obviously the one that I look at is the one in Austin, and that's West Virginia and Texas. Texas came in here last week. I don't know if they weren't ready to play. I don't know if it was the fact that they had some guys defensively suspended for that first quarter, and Oklahoma State really made its hay in the first quarter, putting up a bunch of points on Texas. But those of you who are with us on TV can see the big games today in the Big 12. And West Virginia, Texas, they're probably playing to determine who participates in the Big 12 championship game. I mean, depending on what happens, there's 3 more weeks left. But these two teams, whoever wins this game between West Virginia and Texas, has a great chance to be squaring off against Oklahoma and Dallas.
Yeah, that's a huge game, and they came down to Stillwater, and I was thinking because of the bye week for both teams, Oklahoma State hadn't been in a situation where they looked as strong as they would have liked, and so I knew Oklahoma State was going to come out well and have a chance to win that game. And you saw Texas, even though they've won those games, they haven't been as impressive. They lose to Maryland. Obviously, they beat Oklahoma, and the kind of offensive firepower that Oklahoma brings to the table. So that they have some talent, but doing it consistently throughout the entire season is very difficult, and they're kind of finding that out. Even though, you can look really good at times, when you're just learning your team and learning your identity and some of those things, injuries, all of those things come into play. So to be able to just consistently win game after game, week after week, is a big deal, and Texas is kind of finding that out, obviously dropping the first one to Maryland, and then being in a situation where they come to an Oklahoma State team that hadn't played very well up until that point, and they drop one here.
Yeah, Texas won a lot of close games, and then they finally lost one against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State last week, though, they just played like a desperate team. I mean, desperation oftentimes breeds results, and that's what we saw from Oklahoma State a week ago. I don't look at West Virginia or Texas as desperate teams. I think they're both teams that are – I think we're still trying to figure out how good both of those teams are. West Virginia obviously has some firepower offensively with Greer and Jennings and Sills and those guys, but they seem to lose every time they get matched up against a good team. They can beat all the bad teams. They're going to beat your brains in if you're Baylor, but they go to Iowa State and they get beat. Now they're going to Texas, and I don't know that I would favor West Virginia in this game, but I also feel like we don't know how good Texas is because, yeah, they've got the big win over Oklahoma in the rivalry game, but other than that, like you said, the loss to Maryland, they barely sneak past Tulsa. They get beat by Oklahoma State, barely sneak past Baylor. They barely sneak past Kansas State. I just think that this Texas team has won some close games, and because of the big win over Oklahoma, it's a big helmet logo beating a big helmet logo. That's why they were number 6 in the country, because they've got the horns on the side of their helmet, and they beat that interlocking O and that U, and they got vaulted to number 6 in the country. I don't think anybody thinks they were the 6th best team in the country, and now they're ranked number 17. West Virginia ranked number 13. I probably like West Virginia's chances today going on the road to Austin, but I tell you what, I wouldn't put money on this game. If you gave me money, I wouldn't put your money on this game.
I appreciate you looking out for my financial situation.
Hey, gotta look after one
it's one of those deals where teams taking that step from good to great. It's a difficult situation to be able to do that, and the teams that consistently do it. That's why I got a lot of respect for those guys down in Norman, because they consistently put a good product out there on the field. Oklahoma State has been a good team, and to go ahead and step into that rare air of being an undefeated team, winning the Big 12 championship consistently, those things are hard to do. And West Virginia is kind of in that same situation. They'll go out and, like you said, beat the Baylors, beat the people that they're supposed to beat. But to go out there and beat Oklahoma, to beat the TCUs when they're good, to beat the University some of the other universities within the Big 12 Conference on a consistent basis at the top of the food chain is difficult, and they're finding that out.
Yeah, they are. And then elsewhere today in the Big 12, Iowa State at Kansas. It's an 11 a.m. game. Iowa State's actually one of my picks this week in our Lock Supply Locks of the Week we do on the franchise drive. I got it at 14. It's up to 16 now. I think I got it at 14 and a half, actually. I had to give the hook with Iowa State. I think they're going to blow Kansas out. It's hard for Kansas to have a letdown game. We don't see Kansas have letdown games very often because Kansas doesn't win very often. But when they do, I would imagine they go all out and just party and go absolutely nuts in Lawrence. I think they're going to come out and get drilled by Iowa State. I mean, 45-14, I think Iowa State's going to win this game.
And Purdy is playing extremely well, man. He's changed some things up for them. I heard a little bit on the way up here. You know, obviously Montgomery was kind of banged up there early on in the season, but he's healthy now. He's rushed for 100 yards in the past 4 games, and a lot of that has to do with how well Brock Purdy is throwing the ball and managing the game, and he's got some mobility. We saw that right here at Boone Pickens Stadium. So
in his coming out party.
Yeah, in his coming out party. But you know, it's just one of those deals. You know, when you can manage the game, when you can make solid throws, you can let your running back, you know, be the player that he is. And Montgomery is a really good player. So they're rolling right now.
Yeah, they are. And then Kansas State at TCU. What a snoozer at 2:30. This game's on FS1, so make sure if you're channel surfing, you don't accidentally pass through FS1. It might put you right to sleep, and then you'll miss a lot of good football today. Kansas State and TCU. Look, these are bad football teams, Donovan. Yeah. TCU lost in Lawrence last week. Kansas State has played exactly one good football game all year, and it was against Oklahoma State. This is going to be, I mean, Kansas State and TCU, are we looking at like a 16-13, 14-10? I mean, or maybe both defenses don't show up, but I think it's going to be like 14-10.
I think the defenses show up, and what you end up happening is with the turnovers, that ends up, you know, putting those offenses in better situations. Won't be surprised if you have some pick sixes where that score might, you know, get into the 30s. So
I guess I wasn't considering non-offensive touchdowns.
Yeah. Special teams, Kansas State always does that well, and pick sixes, I can imagine that happening, you know, twice in this game.
Yeah, they don't throw it around too well at TCU or at Kansas State. TCU was a team, man, they played in the Big 12 title game a year ago, and now they're 3-5, 1-4 in conference. They've already lost to Kansas, so actually Kansas State and TCU are tied at the bottom of the conference. Them and Kansas all 1-4 in conference play. So whichever of these two teams, Kansas State and TCU, loses this game today, if Kansas could beat Kansas State, then either Kansas State or TCU is going to finish at the bottom of the conference, 10th out of 10, instead of Kansas. And nobody would have predicted that coming into the season. It's always rock chalk.
You know, it's Kansas is doing some good things, and you know, it just lets kind of people know as well. Even if you think you're going to have a good football team, you've been riding high. You mentioned TCU is in the Big 12 title game last year, and then you know they're looking at being a bottom dweller right now if they don't play a little bit better. So it's one of those deals, man. You know, I think Oklahoma State obviously. They've had a ton of success, but you know they're not with guys like Mason Rudolph and James Washington and Marcel Aitman. They're not. The bottom is not falling out. You know, it had the potential to go ahead and do that. I think if they would have lost last week, we would have been in a situation where you know we're talking about Oklahoma State being a bottom feeder in the Big 12. But you know, we righted the ship, and hopefully it continues against these Baylor Bears.
Yeah. No doubt. That's Donovan Woods. I'm Colby Powell. This is your Oklahoma State Franchise Pregame Show, 107.7 The Franchise and 107.9 The Franchise in Tulsa. We get a tweet from our loyal listener, Harry Taylor. Says, next week's going to be amazing. I love it. And the Bedlam rivalry. He says, the question is, if OU and OSU both win this week, are we finally going to get a Bedlam game night kickoff in Norman? There's never been a night kickoff in Norman for a Bedlam game, which is a weird stat. We've had night kickoffs for Bedlam in Stillwater, never a night kickoff for Bedlam in Norman. First off, that caught me way off guard as long as Bedlam's been played. Yeah, they flexed this game into the 6-day window, so we won't know until tomorrow what time this game is going to be played. I hope it's a night game. if for no other reason because I'm tired of waking up and doing morning pregame shows, but night games are more fun. They're better atmospheres. They're more fun for everybody.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's going to be, it's going to be tough to go down to Norman for the Cowboys
It don't
and get
matter
a win.
what time that game's played. Come on, I know you
This
played.
is the Oklahoma State
Donovan, I know you
franchise
played here.
pregame show. Come on, man.
I know you played up here.
Come on,
It don't matter
man.
what time that game's played.
This is the Oklahoma State franchise
6 a.m.,
pregame show.
noon, 10 p.m., midnight.
It's going to be a difficult situation, but, I'm pretty sure it wasn't a whole lot of people that, thought Texas was going to go down to the Cotton Bowl and beat this Oklahoma team. And, as well as Kyler Murray has played, as well as Lincoln Riley has led that team, it's a bedlam game. I mean, you've seen time and time again when it's a rival, and that doesn't – Oklahoma is going to go out there, and it's going to be tough to stop them. But I'm just saying it should be a good game. It should be a good game.
Rivalry games are always quirky, and you always leave the door open for something quirky to happen in a rivalry game. But theoretically, that game should be a little bit of a mismatch in 2018. A little bit.
Just
a little bit.
It'll be a good game. I'm looking forward to it.
Don't get me wrong. I'm looking forward to it. I always look forward to it, and I hope that it is a night game. We're going to take a break. We'll come back on the other side, continue to preview Oklahoma State and Baylor, as well as Oklahoma and Texas Tech, and we'll take a look at some of the games around the country, including the big one between Alabama and LSU. Stay with us here on the Franchise.
107.7, the Franchise pregame and postgame show, brought to you by The Table. Stop by The Table on Thursdays at 8 p.m. to join their Bible study. Shoot Rachel an email at rachel@thetableosu.com for more information. And Campbell Property Management. If you're looking for luxury living in Stillwater, please contact Campbell Property Management at 405-372-9225 or visit their website at campbellmanagement.com. That's campbellmgmt.com for more information. We'll be right back.
When you have a team of physicians and nurses that really truly care about their patients, that translates into patient care.
It's a small practice, it's a small town. Everybody really takes that time to put the patient first.
Everybody cares what's happening to me and that I'm making progress and I'm gaining my freedom back and my mobility back. This patient is saying thank you. my mind, I was never going to walk right again. Before we were through, we had walked 23 steps. And that was my first steps of freedom. This patient is saying thank you.
Welcome back to your Oklahoma State franchise pregame show. Colby Powell and Donovan Woods alongside you. We're sneaking in here in the 12-hour OU pregame coverage, getting ready for OU and Texas Tech tonight. You can hear that game right here on the franchise, talking a little Oklahoma State Baylor, as well as previewing Oklahoma and Texas Tech. And now we're going to send it to the Little Caesars Hot and Ready hotline, where we're joined by our good friend Cameron Jordan, who usually joins us in Stillwater for the home games. But Cameron's with us on the phone today. Cameron, how's it going?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you?
Oh, good, man. Just hanging out here, getting ready for Oklahoma State and Baylor. And this one, Waco's actually a place that Oklahoma State has had some trouble winning. I don't know what it is about Waco. Waco, to me, not a real difficult place to play. Obviously, Baylor had some really good teams there during the Art Briles era. We won't dive into, once again, how they got to be so good down in Waco, but they were playing some real football. Now Matt Rule's just kind of trying to steady the ship down there. They get drilled by West Virginia a week ago. Cameron, what do you make of this Baylor program as a whole as they attempt to bounce back from what was left of the program whenever Art Briles was sent packing?
They're definitely an improved team from last year. They're really struggling in the run defense this year, and that's something that OSU is going to have to look to exploit today if it wants to come out with a win. Kind of like you mentioned, OSU is 2-4 in the night gun in Waco against Baylor, and it's kind of a weird record because it's one of OSU's worst records on the road against an opponent. This Baylor team is down. It's not where that other team is, but Baylor is also really successful on the offensive end on converting third downs. They're converting on 46% of their third down attempts, so it's going to be really pivotal for OSU to stop Baylor on third downs and get the defense off the field, and then when they get the ball back on offense, OSU should need to run the ball effectively.
Hey Cameron, I always like being on the radio with you because you always give us those good stats talking about the Baylor Bears having some problems in the run defense area. So how many times do you think Justice Hill gets the football today, and how many times does Chuba Hubbard get the ball with probably his best game on last week?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more two-back sets with both of them this week. I think combined you're going to get around 40 carries out of both of them. I think Justice Hill is going to be anywhere from 20 to 25, and then Chuba's going to get the rest of those. I mean, those two guys are just so dynamic, and when they're both in the game, especially you saw last week how potent OSU's offense can be, especially in that first half when they ran those two-back sets, and you run one of them on a sweep, or you run a draw with the other one with one of the lead blocker, one out for a pass. It's really effective and can draw the linebackers out and open up holes up the middle, which I think is something OSU is going to be effective with today. It's going to be really interesting to see how much they get the ball because their carries have kind of fluctuated after games when they both carried the ball a lot. Like last week, their carries have kind of gone down, but I don't expect that to be kind of the game plan today. I would expect that both of them are going to carry the ball a lot. I'd say Justice Hill is going to be kind of like I said, 20 to 25 carries in that range, and then Chuba is going to be anywhere from 10 to 15.
Yeah, and Cameron, I mean, Chuba has clearly now surpassed J.D. King on the depth chart, right? Obviously, everyone's high on J.D. King, and he's a good back, but Chuba, with his speed, just brings a different element to this offense. And I think we saw a week ago with how effective the offense was using Justice Hill and Chuba Hubbard. I think that J.D. King has been passed on the depth chart by Chuba.
Yeah, I think so too. And J.D. King is still he got a little bit of playing time last week, but he's not going to be getting as many carries as Chuba Hubbard is. And another guy, L.B. Brown, he got hurt in that South Alabama game and didn't really fully get healthy until about a month later. And he just has been absent since the beginning of the year. And everybody thought he was possibly going to be playing more than Chuba earlier in the year too. So with L.B. kind of falling down the depth chart after his injury and just not getting as many carries, he's still getting a little special teams reps here and there, but Chuba's just such a dynamic playmaker with his game-breaking speed. And actually talking to him the last couple weeks, he's really, really working on trying to get a big kick return. He said he feels like it's just a matter of time before he can possibly take one back for a touchdown. But Chuba's just playing really well. I mean, any time you put the ball in his hands, he's just making big plays, and he's averaging 7.5 yards per carry, and that's a first down every other play you give him the ball. And then I mean, that's not even mentioning his ability as a pass catcher out of the backfield. He can make one cut and make a couple guys miss, and he's going to gain 10 yards just because of that. So he's really a dynamic playmaker and someone who you have to get the ball to because he can do that many great things for this offense.
Yeah, that speed just kind of changes things. It's definitely something that defenses are worrying about all the time. But I want to touch on J.D. King and L.D. Brown a little bit more for those guys who are in backup roles, and you got an All-American type back in Justice Hill, and you're backing them up, and Chuba Hubbard obviously brings what he does to the table. It's important for those guys to continue to find ways to be involved in the game, like you said, through special teams, being detailed on the sidelines with when those guys come out, telling them what they see, and just being good teammates, because it's just extremely important for team morale. And from what I've seen so far, want to commend those guys because obviously everyone wants to be out there on the field, but those guys have been doing a great job of it, so just wanted to point that out as well.
Yeah, kind of like you mentioned, J.D.'s carries have definitely dropped off. He kind of emerged as kind of the number 2 back last year behind Justice. And this year, because Chuba obviously wasn't redshirting, Chuba's kind of taken over those carries because he's shown that he's just a dynamic playmaker. J.D.'s still got I can't remember off the top of my head how many carries he had last year, but he's still going to get a couple carries every game. He's more of a power back, someone who you want to give the ball to at the goal line if maybe Justice Hill is gassed, or you just need to kind of get a couple yards because J.D. King, when he puts his shoulder down, I mean, we've all seen the videos of him in the weight room. He's just incredible with his strength and his power, and that's his best attribute as a running back. And like you mentioned, L.D. Brown, he kind of a bummer for him. He got hurt in that South Alabama game, second game of the year, and then missed a couple weeks and kind of fell out of that running back role because Chuba Hubbard kind of picked up on LD's carries and just kind of took off from there and has taken that solid second role in the running back room. And LD still helps out on special teams, but as far as his role as a running back, it's kind of decreased, but you can still see his effectiveness in other areas of the field, like you mentioned.
Oklahoma State insider Cameron Jordan joining us on the Little Caesars Hot and Ready hotline here on 107.7 The Franchise, 107.9 The Franchise in Tulsa. All right, Cameron, so Mike Gundy, early in the season, it's laid back, it's dog at the press conference, it's drinking a smoothie after the game, joking about vodka, and then it's just almost insufferable for about a month. And then now last week he comes out and the passion that Oklahoma State fans were asking for and hadn't seen for about a month, it was there last week. The aggressiveness was there last week from Mike Gundy, going for it on 4th down early in that game. The little fake punt that they did at midfield that allowed a drive to extend, they ended up going down and scoring on that drive. I thought Coach Gundy was much more aggressive a week ago against Texas. Desperation sometimes will do that to you, but in a game where Oklahoma State's a touchdown favorite, we saw against Iowa State and against Texas Tech, this team, they just had no fire. They had no aggressiveness. They didn't punch first. They were reactionary to what happened in those football games. So do you think Gundy coaches the same way today that he did against Texas, aggressively and with a lot of energy?
I think you kind of have to. I mean, it's going to be really hard to match the energy from Texas because it was homecoming. I talked with a couple of the players this week, and they said just they had that much more energy with how lively the home crowd was with the homecoming, the throwback jerseys, everything. They said kind of the week off of practice, 2 after the tough loss for them up at Kansas State, that just all kind of came together, and it was a really emotional high game. It's going to be really hard for them to kind of reciprocate that effort today. You're on the road against a team that is kind of in the middle of the pack of the Big 12. I mean, you got to get fired up to play every game in the Big 12, but Baylor's just not one of those teams, especially the past couple seasons, that you just kind of get fired up like, oh, we have to go play, then we have to play well to be able to win. But at the same time, I think you're going to see some aggressive play calls out of Gundy. I think they're going to keep. I think you're going to see some more I formation today. I think you're going to see those 2 back sets, and also the 2 tight end sets where they ran a bunch of plays when they were in the middle of the field with the 2 tight end sets. And that was really effective for them last week, running the ball. And we kind of mentioned it off the top of the show, is that OSU is going to have to run the ball effectively today, and they have the opportunity to do that because Baylor's the 2nd worst rush defense in the league. So you have those running lanes are going to be open. How is OSU going to exploit those, and how are they going to utilize that to their advantage is going to be a big question.
All right, Cameron, your score prediction today for Oklahoma State and Baylor.
My score prediction, I think OSU is just too talented offensively for the Baylor defense. I think the defense will be tested early, but once they get settled in, I think OSU is going to take over, and I have OSU winning this game 44-31.
44-31. All right, Cameron, we'll keep an eye on it, and we'll talk to you next week. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
That was Cameron Jordan joining us on the Little Caesars Hot and Ready Hotline, 107.7 The Franchise, 107.9 The Franchise in Tulsa. His score predictions there close to the score I had last night in my high school game, 42-31. Southmore SaberCats go out with a win. It was nice. It was senior night. Had a couple big plays. That was it was Northern North last night. So both teams came in at 2-7. Neither one are world beaters. But senior night for Southmore wanted to go out with a win, and that was nice to get a win. And your John Marshall Bears gonna have to get that bounce back game, Donovan.
Yeah, we definitely we took an L last night against the Kingfisher Yellow Jackets. Coach Myers does a great job with those guys down there. They got a ton of tradition, and they play hard. And they got a quarterback, Sternberger kid, that's a really good player. Got a receiver that's a really good player, but we didn't do what we needed to do. We got to go on the road. I believe it's against Plainview. We got a tough one coming up. It's playoffs, so it's win or go home. So.
Talking about playing with some desperation.
Playing with some desperation.
Gosh, and the 3A playoffs go on for like 6 months because there's so many teams in 3A.
Yeah.
How many games you got to win a state title?
You got to win 5 to go hoist the gold ball.
And y'all did it last year.
We did last year, but it's going to be a difficult road this year. Obviously, being the 3 seed in our district, got Heritage Hall, last year's 4A champion, and then dropping the Kingfisher last night. We made it tough on ourselves, but. What better way to write the story for the John Marshall Bears than to, be a 3 seed and go on the road and win some ball games and make it all the way to the state title. That's definitely our goal, and we got some work to do to get it done.
Yeah, don't even get me started on Heritage Hall winning the 4A state title and then dropping down to 3A. You coach in 3A, so you can't criticize that, but I'm just saying, I know how the system works. Maybe it needs tweaked. Maybe it needs tweaked if you win the 4A state title and then you move down to 3A. But, yeah, that's a loaded district. John Marshall, Kingfisher, and Heritage Hall. Let's take a break since we had Cameron Jordan join us. We didn't get to touch on Alabama LSU. We'll talk OU Tech. We'll continue to preview Oklahoma State and Baylor as we talk college football here on this Saturday morning. Stay with us here on The Franchise.
107.7, The Franchise pregame and postgame show, brought to you by Tinker Federal Credit Union. Visit facebook.com/TinkerFCU. While you're there for your family, we're there for you. Tinker Federal Credit Union. And Oklahoma Christian University. Get your master's degree in accounting, business administration, theology, engineering, computer science, or cybersecurity from Oklahoma Christian University. Apply at oc.edu/grad. Oklahoma University is committed to offering the best graduate school experience we possibly can. Come learn and grow with us. We'll be right back.
I travel. My passion is teaching and traveling. In my mind, I was never going to walk right again. I just wasn't. One day in here, I put my foot down and I took 2 steps. And then we took 2 more steps. And before we were through, we had walked 23 steps. And that was my first steps of freedom. This patient is saying thank you.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Mom. Hi, Mom. Hi, Mom.
How are you doing?
Hi, Mom. Hi, Mom. Hi, Mom.
Hey, Mom. Hey, Mom.
Hi, Mom. School's going good.
Only slept through 1 class so far.
College was really fun for one day.
First day, crushed it.
Hi, Mom. I miss you. I already got called a high school kid. They're like, are you sure you want college? I'm like, yes, here we go.
I miss home a lot, but college is also really fun. More fun than home.
Hey, Mom, it's me. And I'm not dropped out yet. And my professors haven't kicked me out, and I was only late to 1 class.
Love you. On my heart. You guy. Thank you. Hey, Mom. Good to see you. Love you to pieces. Miss you already.
We're making it. We're still alive. No worries. First day of school. Woo! First day of class was brutal.
妈妈现在好，就是我现在是在我 OSU 的第2个学期，然后一切都很好，完成了我的实习，我接下来要开启我的第2段旅程，一切顺利。Go Bucks.
Hi, Mom. I'm studying hard. Don't worry. Going to class.
I just finished my first 2 classes of the day, and I'm done for the rest of the day.
Hi, Mom. Happy early birthday. You should be proud of me. I came to class.
Hi, Mom. I'll call you later.
Miss you.
You're the bomb.
Miss you, Mom.
Miss you back home.
Miss you.
I miss you. Love you, Mama.
There we go.
Determining your future by selecting a major can be difficult.
It's okay to be undecided.
Connect with the College of Arts and Sciences, where your options are endless.
Where you can uncover your passions and achieve your goals.
Express your creativity by exploring a career in the visual and performing arts.
Investigate new discoveries to make the world a better place with a career in science.
Advance knowledge, communicate progress, and contribute to a healthier planet with a career rooted in the social sciences.
Discover your career by looking at the world from different perspectives through the humanities.
Realize a better tomorrow through problem solving and mining data that can change lives.
CAS prepares you to succeed through internships, study abroad, student-guided research projects, and service activities.
With 109 majors, 52 minors, and 24 departments, the only thing missing is you. College of Arts and Sciences.
Connect.
Achieve. Succeed.
In my mind, I was never going to walk right again. Before we were through, we had walked 23 steps. And that was my first steps of freedom. This patient is saying thank you.
Welcome back to your Oklahoma State Franchise Pregame Show. 107.7 The Franchise, 107.9 The Franchise in Tulsa. We've got Mike Steele, Andrew Gilman, and Jesse Stone coming up next here on The Franchise. If you're watching us on Cox Channel 1334 for your Oklahoma State Pregame Show, then we'll take a break right before kickoff, and then Donovan and I will be back after the game. We will recap Oklahoma State and Baylor, and we'll recap buy or sell, which for those who are listening on radio and aren't with us every week on TV, we keep a running tally all season long of the buy or sell throughout the season. We keep the record. We do 5 every week. We buy. It's prop bets is what it is. We guess how many yards guys are going to throw for. And in 7 weeks, because Donovan was out the first week. No, I was up. No, Donovan was out the first week. Okay, it was Thursday night. You had high school football. That's right. We're each 3-1. So we're battling. We're battling.
Yeah, we lost our quarterback and Belindikoff receiver here at the Fighting Donovans and the Fighting Colbys.
The Fighting Donovans went like 11-1 last year. It was an embarrassment on my part.
Yeah, those are always fun though, but we just like the Cowboys this year have had our struggles, so we've
just been inconsistent.
We need to get it together.
We've just been inconsistent. We've lacked the energy. We've lacked the passion from a coaching standpoint. But I think we're going to put it all together and try to at least make a bowl game. Speaking of, I've talked about desperate teams some, and that's what I think Oklahoma State was last week. I think there's some of that with Baylor this week. Baylor is 4-4. Baylor's trying to make a bowl game, and in order to do that, you look at the rest of their schedule. They've got Oklahoma State at home. They're at Iowa State. Let's chalk up the game in Ames as a loss just for the sake of argument. And then they close out with TCU and Tech at home. So they've got 3 of their last 4 at home against Oklahoma State, TCU, and Tech are their home games. They've got to win 2 of those 3 to get to a bowl game. I think that's doable. There's a chance they can beat Oklahoma State today. I think they'll be favored against TCU, and then the Tech game, there's a chance they could beat Texas Tech. So Baylor might be a little bit – desperate teams scare me, and I think that they really – after a 1-win season last year, I think they really want to make a bowl game, and they need to win 2 of the last 4 to get it done.
Yeah, definitely, and I probably think they're thinking over there with it being homecoming for them that this Oklahoma State team is one that they can beat. I mean, they've shown, even though, they have a big win last week, they've shown against Iowa State and Texas Tech that they can give up some points. They can, do some things that necessarily that can get you beat. So this Baylor team is probably licking their chops, ready to go. So Oklahoma State needs to make sure that they take care of business today because I'm pretty sure the way Baylor's looking at it, this is a game that they believe that they can win.
Yeah, I think so too. And again, though, you look at the Baylor schedule, their wins this season, not exactly the most impressive. They've beaten Abilene Christian, they've beaten UTSA, Kansas, Rock Chalk, and Kansas State. That's the 4 wins this year for the Baylor Bears. Losses to Duke, Oklahoma, they got doubled up by OU, lost in a close one to Texas, 23-17, and then they did not get doubled up by West Virginia. They got quadrupled up by West Virginia, 58-14 in that one. So, look, it's not like Oklahoma State's out just wearing out the best teams in the country, but wins over Boise State and Texas are certainly better wins than what we're seeing here on the Baylor schedule. I do think Oklahoma State is a bit more talented. Baylor's still kind of rebuilding from what happened whenever Art Briles departed, but Charlie Brewer, he can play a little bit, and he's been cleared from concussion protocol, and he can run around a little bit. He scares me if I'm an OSU fan because he's that guy that can get hot, and we've seen it from Baylor quarterbacks. Gosh, what year was it that Baylor came in here? I think it was 3 years ago. Baylor came in here and played 3 quarterbacks because of injuries and just lit Oklahoma State up, burned them to pieces. Yeah, it was. That was the game that you, me, and Sam sat right here in these very chairs. And before we came on the air, Sam's head about exploded. We had to change seats because he was tired of sitting next to me. I think that was back in Sam. That was pre-New Leaf. I think Sam had just gone on a diet, so he was cranky that day, and he freaked out after the Oklahoma State loss to Baylor. But they've had some success against Oklahoma State airing it out.
Yeah, they definitely have, and they've got the receivers to do it. And like you said, the quarterback, he should be back. And, you know, he can throw it around. He can run around and do some good things. So the Cowboys have to definitely get after him and do some things defensively maybe that they haven't seen. Maybe they were able to put in a couple of things during the bye week that they didn't show against the University of Texas. So this is a big game for both teams, and hopefully the Cowboys are taking care of business in the way that they need to.
Yeah, and you mentioned those big receivers for Baylor. Denzel Mims, obviously a fantastic player. I think that Oklahoma State's corners had their best game of the season last week, maybe the best games of their careers against Colin Johnson and Lil Jordan Humphrey for Texas. Now, part of that, I think Ellinger had a bit of a bum shoulder, and he was struggling to get the ball down the field. But to me, what I've seen Oklahoma State's corners, A.J. Green and Rodarius Williams, struggle with is whenever you get guys who are quick and can really get out and beat you in space. I don't think the big guys have given them a ton of problems, especially when you look at 6'6" Colin Johnson and 6'4" or 6'5", whatever he is, Lil Jordan Humphrey last week against Texas. I mean, A.J. Green in the hip pocket of Colin Johnson all night just kind of shadowed him around the field, which allowed Oklahoma State to bring an extra man up and defend the run more effectively. And then Rodarius Williams was effective against Lil Jordan Humphrey. Neither of those guys reached 100 yards receiving. So Denzel Mims and A.J. Green, I assume A.J. Green, who's a little bit bigger of a corner, I assume that's going to be the matchup. And that's one to watch today because if Green can take Mims out, then we're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, you touched on it there with those bigger guys. They don't have the suddenness and the quickness, and our corners are big guys. They're really physical, and they were able to play those bigger receivers from Texas, and hopefully it continues this week against Baylor as some of those guys, Mim and that you mentioned, are bigger guys, and you know it's difficult. When I was playing safety, you know I was 220 pounds, and I hated to see a smaller guy cat quick in the slot because. You know, when
quickest guy you hated just defending.
Quickest
Top
guy.
of your head, I'm putting you on the spot.
Danny Amendola.
Danny Amendola. There's been a lot of talk about Danny Amendola and his first down that wasn't back in, what was that, 05 in that Texas Tech game?
He was really good, man. They had a great crop of receivers there at Texas Tech. A guy by the name of Michael Crabtree. And
he was decent.
Even remember some of those guys like Robert Jones and Joe Falani. Big-time receivers there at Texas Tech, and, you know, they've done a great job of being able to get those guys the ball. Another good one, Texas Tech guy, Cameron Batson, is cat quick. He's up there going
he's with the Titans now. Yeah.
Going very well for him. So Texas Tech, man, always has some good receivers, and they've always got a shorter guy who's cat quick in the slot, and I hate it to play against those guys, man. Like I said, just being a bigger guy, they give you problems.
I mean, it's a matchup nightmare, really. Whenever you're one of those quick little slot guys against a linebacker, and you see it sometimes in the NFL, the really good play callers in the NFL, the Sean McVays and Andy Reids of the world, they find those matchups and they exploit them to no end, and there's just nothing that you can do about it. Donovan Woods is with me. I'm Colby Powell. This is your Oklahoma State franchise pregame show, 107.7 The Franchise, 107.9 The Franchise in Tulsa. Let's go ahead and talk about Texas Tech a little bit more. Texas Tech and Oklahoma tonight in a big game in the conference. David Pollack said this morning on College Game Day that this was the prove-it game for Oklahoma's defense, and this is the game where we'll find out whether they're a real Final Four team. I think a lot of people are looking at this as a big game for OU's defense because after Mike Stoops got let go, it was really awesome to come back and see those two teams in purple and see those two offenses in Kansas State and TCU. I heard somebody, I think it was on Locker Room Unfiltered on Thursday, somebody called those offenses one-dimensional, and somebody corrected them and said, no, those offenses are no-dimensional. And Texas Tech, they do things a little differently, couldn't run the ball worth a lick against Iowa State last week in Ames. Less than 30 yards rushing last week against Iowa State, probably why they lost the football game. But we've also seen the high side of this Texas Tech offense this season, and that was against Oklahoma State in Stillwater. So they can put up some points. How are you looking at this OU Tech game tonight?
Yeah, I'm going to be watching the defense for Oklahoma as well. Obviously, when you have a coaching change like they did, you want to have a situation where you have some time to get your feet under. You're playing some different guys, and it's very good to do that when you can gain some confidence. And confidence is a huge deal whenever you're playing sports or fighting or something like that. So this is going to be the big test for this OU defense. You know that they're going to score points. It doesn't matter who they play. I think if you put them out there against the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Clemsons, they're going to score 40 points on them. But this OU defense is going to be a test for them to see if they can go out there, and they don't have to, hold them to 14 or 21 points. They just need to get stops and not make it a shootout where they're scoring 50 and 60. And I think if that team that defense can go out there and do that, I think the team is a Final Four team.
Yeah, 50 and 60, that's too much. If Tech scores 42, they still lose. I mean, they're not going to be able to hold Oklahoma to that. And the problem with Oklahoma is, let's say Tech plays ball control and slows the game down, which they've actually been able to do some this year through the quick passing game. It's weird. You think ball control, you think teams like Army, teams like Kansas State who just run it. Tech has had an advantage most of the season in time of possession in their games just from throwing these quick little routes, picking up third downs. They've been efficient defensively on third downs, getting other teams off the field so they can get their offense back out there. Even if they slow it down, problem is if Tech keeps scoring, Oklahoma's going to keep scoring. To catch 22 for Tech, you want to hold the ball. You want to keep OU's offense off the field. You score, they're going to come down and score. It's not necessarily name your price for Oklahoma. Texas Tech is better defensively than they have been. I think they'll offer more resistance than they did a couple of years ago in that 1,700 total yard game between Texas Tech and Oklahoma back in 2016, whenever those teams played in Tech. You ever played a 1,700-yard game, Donovan?
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I threw just for a little bit over 1,700 yards, and to have one in one game is absolutely.
Mahomes had 734 passing, I think, 814 total yards in that game.
It took me 5 games almost to get to 700 yards, but no, it was 3 games maybe. But still, I mean, the way they throw the ball around nowadays is just. I mean, it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
And those guys a couple years ago looked pretty special. Pretty special offensive talent. Mahomes obviously lighting the NFL on fire. Mayfield, Nixon, Mark Andrews, D.D. Westbrook were all on that Oklahoma team. So it wasn't just bad defenses. I know that's the reputation in the Big 12, but those guys can play. And Pat Mahomes, some of the throws that he made that night in that OU Tech game, I mean, he's making those throws now at the NFL level. You don't want to jump the gun on a guy's rookie year, but he looks like he has a chance to be really special for a long time in the NFL.
Yeah, and he's got a guy in Andy Reid who you know is going to put him in the positions. And then when you can turn around and hand the ball to Hunt and some of the other running backs that they have, I mean, it's like you said, you don't want to judge him on just his rookie year. But I mean, he's looking special, and if he continues to stay healthy and they continue to surround him with good guys like they have, this team is going to be good for a long time, and so will he.
Yeah, no doubt about it. OU and Texas, who wins the game tonight? I mean, you picking OU? How big? The line, I looked this morning, the line on this game is now 12. I think it opened at 10. It's fluctuated all the way up to 13, maybe 13 and a half, and now it's back at 12.
I'm definitely picking OU in this game. That offense in Kyler Murray is just too much. They've had a couple of running backs go down, and they've been able to just roll guys in there. The offensive line is playing better, and again, it's going to come down to this defense. You want to see them, and they don't have to go out there and be the 2000 Baltimore Ravens, but they have to.
Shout out Kelly Gregg.
Shout out Kelly. But yeah,
Kelly Gregg, the only reason Ray Lewis is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he kept them off old Ray out there.
Oh yeah,
Kelly Gregg.
Kelly did the dirty work so the guys behind him could be pretty.
He was a ball player, man. I remember watching tape on him and Haloti Nada and some of those guys that I played with in Pittsburgh, and they did a great job, man. But yeah, it's gonna come down to the defense.
Kelly was still in Baltimore when you were in Pittsburgh, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think he was.
I believe so. And we had another guy like him for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was a guy that wrestled. His name was Brady Hoke, and he was probably only
Brady Hoke.
Brady Hoke.
Okay, it's the Michigan coach's name who failed before Harbaugh failed.
Chris Hoke.
Chris Hoke. I'm like, you played with a Brady Hoke? That's a weird coincidence.
But he wasn't a big guy, barely 6'1", but he was a wrestler.
It's because they're wrestlers, isn't it?
It's those are the toughest guys who I've ever played against within the interior line, defensive linemen. You see guys that come in. Steve Mocco, Oklahoma State wrestler, and he's still doing some stuff, I think, with American Top Team now. You know, I follow the MMA scene. I think it's American Top Team. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but he was another guy. I mean, he wrestled against a big guy from Michigan, Conrad, I think his name was, and he was looking for bigger guys to wrestle with. And I saw him throw around some of our offensive and defensive linemen, and I could not believe my eyes. It was one of the most amazing things that I had a chance to see while at Oklahoma State, is him just manhandle.
Was he a big guy?
He was probably 290.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit smaller than that. But to see a 350-pound guy who's 6'6", to see his feet go over his head and fly across the room, it's a sight to see, man. It's like being in the wild watching a lion or something, you know, take down a gazelle or a wildebeest or something. It's just, you know, you can't turn away, man. It's just one of those deals that's pretty intense.
If Kelly Gregg is listening to us, he is fired up that we're giving wrestlers their due for being football players.
Tough guys, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tough guys.
So before we get out of here, what was your score prediction for OU Tech? We got distracted talking about Kelly Gregg.
I'm going to say Oklahoma 55, Texas Tech 38.
I'm thinking 47-37. Backdoor cover for Tech. Late touchdown, won't matter, but late touchdown, backdoor cover for Texas Tech. It's a lot of points to have to cover on the road. Donovan Woods is with me. I'm Colby Powell here on The Franchise. We're going to take a break, come back on the other side. We'll look at some of the big games around college football. We've got buy or sell before we get out of here and turn it over to Mike, Andrew, and Jesse here on The Franchise. Stay with us.
7, the Franchise pregame and postgame show, brought to you by Oklahoma Air National Guard. Contact Oklahoma Air National Guard at 800-GO-TO-ANG or visit their website at goang.com/OK for more information about how to get 100% college tuition. And OSU Communication. Not sure where to park? OSU Communications has got you covered with parking tips and bus schedule information. We'll be right back.
When you have a team of physicians and nurses that really truly care about their patients, that translates into patient care.
It's a small practice, it's a small town. Everybody really takes that time to put the patient first.
Everybody cares what's happening to me and that I'm making progress and I'm gaining my freedom back and my mobility back. This patient is saying thank you. In my mind, I was never going to walk right again. Before we were through, we had walked 23 steps. And that was my first steps of freedom. This patient is saying thank you.
Welcome back to your Oklahoma State franchise pregame show. Colby Powell and Donovan Woods along with you, getting ready for Oklahoma State and Baylor. Another 11 a.m. kick. Oh, these 11 a.m. kicks. I tell you what, the home game 11 a.m. kicks, you're awake, it's atmosphere. The road game 11 a.m. kicks, it's just brutal. High school football, both of us the night before. You obviously a little more strenuous than myself since you coach and I'm just on the broadcast. Welcoming back our radio listeners as well, Colby Powell and Donovan Woods with you. But, yeah, the late high school game turned around to the early Saturday morning. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, and, you know, when you get back from a game like that and it's a tough loss like we took, we hadn't done that too much, but, man, it was a little tougher to go to sleep, man. I stayed up and
watched. How did you get to sleep?
It was probably 1:30 or so,
yeah.
Maybe a little closer to 2, but I stayed up and watched the film and thought about all the calls that I should have made and things that I could do better as a coach.
Scale of 1 to 10, how good of a coach was Donovan Woods last night?
He's probably a 2, man.
Probably a 2. You're too hard on yourself.
I got a lot of work to do, man. You know, I told the guys, you know, it's going to be teaching tape for us, learning, and the players won't be the only ones that learn from those experiences. But you know, you stand up, you own it, and fair play to Kingfisher and what they did, and we get ready for the next one.
So if y'all win this week in Plainview, will you get a home game the next week? Or are you on the road the whole way?
I think we're on the road the whole way.
That's brutal.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Defending state champs only lose 2 games. That's brutal.
We shouldn't. I mean, the standard is you don't lose any of them. But
yeah, I mean, I guess if you don't lose 2 games, you get to play at home. But
we had our chance.
Easier said than done.
We had our chances in both games. But again, you know, that's where we continue to coach those guys up. We continue to look in the mirror and be honest with the things that we could do better, and we move forward. But we still got great opportunity. That's one of the deals. We got another chance to go into what's going to be a great environment in Plainview and continue our season. So I'm looking forward to the preparation. Looking forward to continuing to coach those guys and see what kind of run we can make.
I'm looking forward to having some Friday nights off.
Yeah.
I'll be real honest with you. The high school football season, I'll tell you, and it goes fast. I mean, I can't believe that our season's over. I'm the voice for Southmore, and Southmore didn't make the playoffs. Had a decent season. Really only won 3 games, but they didn't win any last year, so they're building something. But yeah, it's just a grind, man. The high school, college football, college football, Friday night, Saturday mornings are a grind throughout the fall. So I'm looking forward to not getting home at 11 or midnight on every Friday.
Yeah, it's I'll look forward to Friday nights if we go ahead and make it 2 in a row for John Marshall. But that first, if we end up coming up short that first couple of Fridays, I'm going to be pretty upset continuing to watch the playoffs. But
yeah, you don't want to do that. See, you're obviously a lot more invested than I am. You don't want to have to sit at home while other teams are playing for state titles.
Yeah, I'm invested deep. I mean, I've really enjoyed coaching, and obviously it takes up a lot of time. You know, it's kind of a second gig for me, but I enjoy it, and obviously the passion and the experience that football has been able to give me and my family is something that we definitely take seriously. Thank you for all the things that football has been able to do for me and my family, and go to a place like Oklahoma State and get an education and create opportunities for myself that, it's it's not difficult to say that. I don't know if I didn't play football, if I would have ended up at a place like Oklahoma State, who knows? But thankful for the opportunities and the experience of football and all that it's done for me.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Some big games today in college football. Donovan, let's start at the top with the biggest game of the day in college football. It's Alabama at LSU. This is another one of my picks this week. I've got Alabama minus 2 touchdowns. I think Alabama might go 15-0 and not have anybody play them within 2 touchdowns. But I could be wrong. LSU, they're a good team. They can at least match up physically and athletically with Alabama, which is something that no one on their schedule has been able to do yet. One thing that gives me a little bit of pause, Bama has yet to play a top 90 defense in the country this season, probably because Bama's out there hanging 60 on all of them in the first half, but that's neither here nor there. LSU will be a much better team than they've seen to this point in the season.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching this game, and it's at LSU, so it's going to be
night game, Death Valley.
Yeah, it's going to be it should be a really good game. You know, obviously Alabama has done they've looked as impressive as you can, but I think being able to match them physically is a big deal. Anytime that you can match a team physically who's used to just running over people, you kind of find out a little bit about yourself, and you find out if they are as good as everyone been calling. Because a lot of people have went ahead and just said Alabama is going to be the national champion. There's no need to finish out the rest of the year or a 14 playoff, and they've looked impressive. But I think it's going to be a really good game. You'll probably see a lot more mistakes from Alabama because, again, that physicality of not just being able to push somebody over or run by somebody, I think they'll face that tonight. But I'm looking forward to seeing it, looking forward to seeing how sharp the quarterback is from Alabama. I mean, he's just been throwing out there on air basically. They've had his white jersey. Here we are in week 9 or 10, and he hadn't got sacked, I don't think. It's just one of those deals where you don't have to worry about a lot of things when you can stand back there for 5 seconds. But I think that'll be a little bit different today, and I'm looking forward to watching it.
Oh, Tua, you a Tua fan?
Not really. He's playing.
Not really.
I mean, he's a great player, But I'm just saying.
I think he's fun to watch.
But he's playing for Alabama. He's playing on the best team.
This is true.
And he hadn't faced any adversity. He hadn't faced any adversity. So I mean, he's just doing what he's supposed to do. We beat Alabama in 2006, by the way, in the Independence Bowl.
You did, didn't you?
Yeah, just want to point
that out.
That was a close
game, wasn't it?
Just want to point that out.
Yeah, that was a close game. That Alabama team might have been better than this one, honestly. No, I don't think so. Tua Tagovailoa. Best name in college football, too. Tua Tagovailoa.
Lil Jordan Humphrey and the kid from
Lil Jordan's just a weird. Is it a good name or is it just a weird name? Like Tagovailoa, Tua Tagovailoa.
What's
That's
the
a great
kid from
name.
Kansas, the running back?
Puka Williams?
Puka Williams is the best name for me.
That's a nickname, though.
Yeah, that's
a
pretty good
nickname.
still, man.
What's his real name? Jeremy or Steven or something?
Puka Williams.
What is his real name? I can't even remember it now. Isaac? I can't remember what his real name is. Puka Williams. Some other big games, another one in the SEC. This is actually my Lock Supply Lock of the Week, is Georgia and Kentucky. The line is 9.5. That's where I got it. I took Georgia, and I'm laying the points on the road at Kentucky. I think Kentucky is overrated. Look, shout out to Mark Stoops for what he's doing. Shout out to the quarterback from Del City. What is his name?
Terry Wilson.
Terry Wilson. It was escaping me. Terry Wilson, they're playing some good football. They're 7-1, 5-1 in conference. They win this game. They might have the honor of getting smacked around by Bama in the SEC championship game, but come on, Georgia's going to roll Kentucky, right?
Shout out to my running back coach over there at he's a Kentucky guy, Derek Locke. So he's been fired up that they've been playing well. But, yeah, I think they're overmatched too. He's probably going to want to bet me off there now that I said that.
You ought to let him. I'm telling you, let him. Just tell him if he's confident in his cats. Tell him straight up. We'll just go straight up.
He tried to get me to do that with the game last week against
with
Texas.
Missouri? With Oklahoma State and Texas.
Yes, Oklahoma State and Texas.
Did you take the bet?
I did not take the bet.
Which side did he want?
He thought Texas was going to come in here and roll us.
Donovan.
Yeah, I know, man. I know.
You even picked Oklahoma State to win on
I
the pregame show.
I did, but I didn't have confidence
you didn't have
to put my money
confidence.
out there. I didn't have financial confidence to go do that. But.
Confidence and financial confidence are different things. I've got a buddy. He said, hey man, I'm going to Vegas this week. Send me your picks that you make, and I sent them to him, but I sent him with the disclaimer: you can put your money on these picks. I'm not putting my money on these picks. So
see, when you start putting money out there, and the higher that dollar sign gets, I mean, if someone asked me my name and it was for $1 million, man, I would. I don't know.
Spell it with an A instead of an O there in the middle, Randy Heights style. Randy still doesn't know how to spell your name. We've been doing this for how many years? We still got D-O-N-A. D-O-N-A Van. Don A. Van on the rundown. Come on, Randy, if you're listening. Don O. Van. Donovan Woods joining me here on 107.7 The Franchise, 107.9 The Franchise in Tulsa. Penn State and Michigan. Big game today in the Big Ten. I give Penn State a fighting chance for this reason. Every year, the first set of college football playoff rankings come out, and we're like, oh my gosh, if all these teams win out, who's going to get in? What's going to happen when all these teams win out? And then what happens? The first week after the college football playoff rankings come out, a few of these teams just drop like flies. I would favor Michigan to beat Penn State today. They're 13-point favorites. I don't think Penn State's that good, but it's a game to keep an eye on, certainly, because it's not going to be some sort of cakewalk for Michigan.
Yeah, I definitely think this is one to keep an eye on. Obviously, the tradition that Penn State and Michigan have. But, yeah, it's difficult to kind of roll through that deal and not have a blemish on your record. And teams are finding that out. I think the only team that's going to do that is Alabama for me.
Notre Dame?
Notre Dame, I don't think they will.
They're 8-0. They've got Northwestern, Florida State, Syracuse, and USC. Northwestern today, they're 10-point favorites in that game.
I won't be surprised. And even though Florida State hadn't been playing well, they'll come out there and be fired up and have some athletes and be able to, it's just so hard to go undefeated. The pressure starts building. And just so much in college football is difficult to do when you talk about going undefeated. So, like I said, I think Alabama will be the only one that ends up going all the way. And a team like OU or a team with that prestige and that logo on the helmet that goes a very long way will end up sneaking in there.
Yeah, for the record, I agree with you. I think Notre Dame's going to lose one of the Final Four. They'll be favored in all four, obviously. But I think they'll lose one of those four. They nearly lost to Pittsburgh earlier this season. They're going to slip up, I think, somewhere along the way.
Pittsburgh always sneaks up and beats somebody.
They do.
They do.
Supposed to. It was Clemson. Was it last year they beat? Yeah, it was last year they beat Clemson. Yeah, Pittsburgh always sneaks up on somebody. All right, it is time now for the official buy or sell of the Oklahoma State franchise pregame show. That paper ruffling, for those who aren't on TV with us, that's the official buy or sell record sheet that we keep. We're 3-3-1 each. This is what we do. We get 5 prop bets every week. We buy them or we sell them. We grade them post-game on the Oklahoma State game that takes place that day. We keep a running tally throughout the season. So up first, I sold him way short. Yeah.
Are you sure I'm not 4-2, man? 4-2-1.
We were 3-3-1. I'm gonna have to go pull out last week's paper.
Go back to the archives.
We're gonna have to go pull out the record book and make sure we got it.
All right, we got to make sure it's right. It's gonna be important down at the end of the season.
It is important. It's too close.
When the Fighting Donovan's logo on the helmet ends up getting me into the college football playoff.
See, Donovan, I keep the score, so Donovan, this is like when the other guy in the golf cart has the scorecard. You're like, hold on, what? You gave me what? You gave me a 6 on that hole? All right, so I sold Cornelius way short last week. Cornelius, he had the game of his life last week. It was obviously the best game he's played this season against Texas. So we'll bump his number up a little bit. I think I had it at 220 or 240 last week, passing yards against Texas. You buying or selling Taylor Cornelius throws for at least 280 yards against Baylor?
I think he's going to be right under that number, so I'm going to sell it. I think Tylan Wallace still has a big day. I don't know what you have on the buy or sell list, but I think Justice Hill and Chuba Hubbard and J.D. King will get enough carries, and I think you'll see some of that quarterback run game that you hadn't seen much of, but you did last week. So I think those carries will take away from some of the pass attempts that Cornelius has, putting that number below 280. Yeah,
I'm right there with you. You kind of took the words out of my mouth. I think Oklahoma State is going to lean heavily on the run today against Baylor. I think Justice Hill 20 to 25 carries. I think Chuba gets another 10 to 15, 5 for J.D. King. What are we at there? 45-ish carries probably. And then Cornelius probably keeps it 6 or 7 times on design QB keepers. So I'm selling Cornelius getting to 280. Buy or sell Justice Hill rushes for at least 110 today against Baylor.
I think he has a big run in there that puts him over that number. I still think, even though he hasn't had the season that I'm sure a lot were expecting, he's still a heck of a football player. And I think he goes over that number today.
I'm selling Justice Hill getting to 110. He hadn't gotten there that many times this year. I mean, even last week on 23 carries, he didn't get to the century mark on 23 carries. So I'm going to have to sell Justice Hill until I see it. Buy or sell Tylan Wallace, who had a career game last week, 10 for 222 and 2 touchdowns against Texas. Buy or sell Tylan Wallace has at least 120 receiving yards in Waco.
I think he ends up, I'm going to sell that. He ends up with about 80 or 90, but I think he's going to see some coverage roll to him today. And with us being able to run the football, I don't think he necessarily gets the opportunities. So I'm gonna go ahead and sell that.
Yeah, I'm buying Tylan Wallace. I'm buying all the Tylan Wallace stock. I'm scooping up all of the Tylan Wallace stock. I mean, look, for those of us watching on TV with us, you can see the catches that he's making last week against Texas.
He's balling, man.
Oh man, he's up there. He's the receivers that we have in state on a year-in, year-out basis at both Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, really impressive. Speaking of impressive receivers, you buying or selling? Denzel Mims gets to 100 receiving yards for Texas. Not Texas, for Baylor.
I want to go back to Wallace for a second. Do you think he's going to be all Big 12 performing first team this year?
That's a good question. His numbers will have him close. I mean, are C.D. Lamb and Hollywood Brown first team? Because if they're both first team, you're running out of spots to give to the rest of the Big 12.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys in West Virginia, no, I'll say no on Tylan Wallace. I'll say next year he is. This year I'll say no. I think he's second team all Big 12 this year. There's too many good receivers.
I don't know if both those guys from OU get on first team.
You think just because they're on the same team, maybe the voters will pick one?
Just because they're on the same team.
Maybe.
But they've been playing well.
Yeah,
they've been playing well. Definitely have. I don't think Mims gets to that 100-yard number. Again, I think the size of our corners gives those guys some problems, and won't be surprised if they end up picking this guy off a couple of times as well. We'll be able to get some pressure on them, and I think the corners continue to build on the game that they played last week and continue it into this week as well.
I'm also selling Mims at 100. Before we get out of here, all right, are you buying or selling that Oklahoma State can force at least 2 turnovers today against Baylor?
I think the quarterback pressure, which has been big for us all year, and when you talk about some of the problems that the quarterback has had with concussions and stuff like that, I think we'll go ahead and get after him. And we'll do some good things defensively. So I'm looking forward to the Cowboys turning this Baylor Bear team over and riding high off into the sunset.
I'm selling. I'm selling the 2 turnovers for Oklahoma State. They just don't force a ton of turnovers. Used to force a bunch of turnovers. I haven't seen it much lately. So again, I'll have to see it to believe it. Score prediction time: Donovan, Oklahoma State, and Baylor.
This is going to be a good game, but I'm going to go ahead and say Oklahoma State 42, Baylor Bears 27.
42-27, so you've got Oklahoma State covering. I think it's closer than that. Give me OSU 38-35. I think it's a close game between these two teams. I think they're both going to put up a decent amount of points. So I think Baylor covers.
I think if they haven't been good stopping the run, I think Cameron pointed that out. And we talked about our running back. So I think that's a big reason why they'll still do some good things offensively. But just being able to run the ball the way I think we will be able to today is going to end up putting that distance there in the score.
All right, if you're joining us on TV after the game, we'll be back. Cox Channel 1334. We'll recap buy or sell, recap Oklahoma State and Baylor. For all of our radio listeners, coming up next on The Franchise, we've got Mike Steele, Andrew Gilman, and Jesse Stone as we continue to have pregame coverage all day leading up to OU and Texas Tech, which are right here on The Franchise at 7 o'clock tonight. Thanks, everyone, for being with us. For Donovan Woods and Colby Powell, everyone have a great Saturday.
When you have a team of physicians and nurses that really truly care about their patients, that translates into patient care.
It's a small practice, it's a small town. Everybody really takes that time to put the patient first.
Everybody cares what's happening to me and that I'm making progress and I'm gaining my freedom back and my mobility back. This patient is saying thank you. In my mind, I was never going to walk right again. Before we were through, we had walked 23 steps. And that was my first steps of freedom. This patient is saying thank you.